Chapter 1, Past and Eternal Love. Start. Thousand of years ago, walked through the thick forest of a great mountain. Several powerful-looking men can be seen led by a much younger teen about 17 or 18 in age and around 5 feet 4 inches in height. The teen had a bow in hands. This is confusing. I'm pretty sure the direction to the peak was here. Yes. The teen said, scratching the back of his neck as confusion took over him. No, he was not lost. Not at all. Yes, Your Highness. The path was here just yesterday. The witch must have changed the landscape to confuse us. And yes, they're here to hunt a witch, one that was said to have killed dozens of kids from his empire in cold blood. I see. Then spread. A mere witchcraft will not lead us astray. Yes, Your Highness. Thus, within a few minutes, the teen stood alone and unguarded in the middle of a forest that he supposedly knew like the back of his hand. Took a lone arrow from its sheath on his back. The teen readied it as he began to walk to the opposite direction that his underlings took. From the literatures he read, witches were very good at misdirection. So perhaps if he went to opposite direction, he might meet her. His guess was correct. It took him a half an hour of walking, but the moment he took the last step, the surrounding around him began to change like an illusion which got unveiled right in front of his eyes. Freeze, witch! He didn't let the scene of illusion charm him, nor he let his own curiosity get the better of him because the moment he saw the change in his surrounding, he pointed his bow forward. He sensed a breath of living being in that direction despite he was not able to see it, or her. But it was then, the moment he caught the sight of her, he froze. Taller than any female he met, the witch stood at rather impressive height of 175 centimeters or 5 feet 7 inches even without using Geta sandals. Her white hair draped her shoulders just like strands of the finest silk. And her eyes. Beautiful. But the teen stood mesmerized only for a few seconds, because not long after, his eyes hardened when he stared at the frozen woman in front of him. A witch, one that have killed dozens of the children from his empire. Witch? Shuddered, afraid, and yet also confused, the woman said this to him with a hint of confusion in her tone. The teen didn't let the woman's tone confuse him even for a second. Don't try to fool me, witch. You have killed dozens of children who came to the mountain in cold blood. Confess, and I shall give you a painless death. While the teen was saying this, his eyes never left his target. The middle area of the woman's forehead. One arrow to that area and she's death. Witch or not. I don't know what are you talking about, Emperor Sama. I'm here to guard the divine tree, Shinju. My name's Kagaya Otsutsuki, and I know I never show my face to the public, but you can call me the head priestess of the Shinju and it won't be wrong. You can ask the other priestesses for testimonies if you don't believe me. At first, the teen was suspicious from the fact the woman knew about his status as the emperor. But as she began to explain that she was in fact the guardian of the Shinju, the teen began to falter. He didn't sense any lie from her words. Kakik, ha ha ha, don't trust her words, my lord. She a liar. The teen was quick to spin his bow to block a sword that would have taken his neck if he didn't. But still, the strike still surprised him and he hadn't prepared much strength in his block. Thus, it didn't surprise him when he was thrown to the direction of the witch as he simply rolled a little on the ground, his eyes watching the newcomer with wariness and a hint of surprise. Behind him, the witch was watching the exchange. Tora, what's the meaning of this? Oh, come my lord. If I really wanted to kill you, I would never yell unnecessary, right? Despite the man's words, his grin was still too unnerving. So much that the teen was giving his own glare to the man, refusing to cower. The man didn't like that. Okay, I want to kill you, and then I'll kill that woman behind you so I can eat her heart. Didn't you know, my lord? She has been around for 100 years, and yet look at her. She's still as beautiful as ever, which means she must be a ninjyo. Ninjyo, creature of the sea known for their longevity. Legend also said whoever eat the heart of ninjyo shall gain eternal youth and will not die by any normal means. But to the teen, all of this was just a nonsense. So you put her to blame for the death of the children, so I rally my people to search for her? Yes, after all, gods know how many years it'll take for me to find her alone. But still, I didn't expect you to meet her within a day, my lord. I see. So you poised your sword at me, slander the name of innocent woman. All so you can get an eternal life. The teen stood here while nodding a little. To him, everything was clear now. In the name of my ancestors, I sentence you to death, Torah. A year later. So, you came from the stars? The teen, now full-fledged emperor after he fully gained the trust of his people, sat at the edge of the cliff behind the great tree god, Shinju. And sat beside him, Kaguya. Yes, and just like me, Shinju also came from the stars. It was actually me who planted it here. I see. Nope, not really. He didn't see or understand anything Kaguya said, how many times he tried to wrap his head around it. Thus, he just shrugged off his shoulders. And maybe because she sensed this, Kaguya smiled beautifully at his direction. She was amused. For a human emperor too at that, he was too carefree and too kind-hearted. Not only that, unlike most humans, he was not power-hungry. No. To him, power was not interesting, simple as that. How many times had she told him about how the fruit atop the tree can give anyone who ate it a divine-like power? How many times had she told him about the wish-granting orb several miles away from his empire? Story after story that could make humans salivating. And the emperor merely gave her a small and uninterested "I see" at every end of her stories. And yet, when she told him about what she liked, what her hobbies are, and how she felt about some flowers or something like those, the emperor always had a glint in his eyes. Like a kid that was told that there was a candy hidden somewhere. He liked her, Kaguya's mind concluded. Emperor, you're so funny. Kaguya said honestly as she hid her smile behind the wide sleeve of her kimono. All the while, her eyes was looking down on the teen who had a cute blush on his face after she gave him a small compliment. Yes, to her, he was cute. And yes, she liked him too. He showed her something that her clan never had even among their own family members. Love and affection. I have to tell you that I'm not funny whatsoever. Kaguya, don't laugh. Of course, instead of stopping, when Kaguya saw how red the emperor's face was, her laugh became louder. And yes, she was laughing so hard that her stomach began to hurt. But still, in her heart, she felt a pleasant feeling. Like hundreds of butterflies were flying inside it. Another year later. Kaguya, I know you're the guardian of Shinju and has lived for hundreds of years. But if I may ask, would you like to spend your life with me as my wife? Wearing a set of grand-looking kimono and a pair of tall Geta sandals, so he was as tall as Kaguya, at the very least, the emperor said this bluntly the moment Kaguya came out of her hut after she heard his knock. Of course, he blushed in embarrassment when the woman gave him a raised eyebrow. He expected a smile or laugh. He didn't expect such uninterested face fro. I accept. Huh? Did he hear that right? And maybe because she saw his confusion, a smile in the end broke on Kaguya's face. However, Emperor, I have no money, I have no land, and I literally have nothing but this small hut behind me. Are you really sure you want to marry someone like me? Each word that came out of her own mouth pained Kaguya. It pained her because everything she said was the truth. She was a princess of a powerful clan born to rule, yet discarded to the backwater planet the moment the elders saw how weak she actually was. She was a disgrace. And here, she's just a guardian of a tree. Kaguya. The emperor, the man who gave her life a meaning, called her name. With slightly teary eyes, her attention went to him once again. She didn't even realize that she was crying prior to his call. And here, the emperor gave her a kind smile, full of love and kindness for someone as unworthy as her. You'll have me, as long as you want. Thus, for the first time in her life, Kaguya cried in happiness. Another year. Awawa, my hip hurt. As she was following her husband to his throne, Kagaya had a small patch of blush on her cheeks when she saw her dearest emperor pat his hip a little with an uncomfortable look on his face. Seemed painful. "I am sorry, husband," Kagaya said to her husband, knew full well that it was her fault that his hips hurting. In her defense, she never knew that the activity called sex was very enjoyable. Sure, the first night, her dearest husband had to guide her in what to do. The second night, she broke their bedding. Night after night, sex after sex. And ever since their wedding a year ago, there was no single night without sex. Simply because to Kagaya, the moment she and her husband connected their bodies, it was MNN. There was no word grand enough that can explain just what she feels about her sex with her husband. "It's all right, my rabbit empress. A pained hip is not going to deter me from spending my night with you," the emperor said as he was giving his wife a wink. Kagaya's face flushed with even redder blush the moment she saw this. "Stop calling me that. It's embarrassing. Rabbits. Animal known for their sex drive, or at least that what people said and believed. And probably because servants passed the emperor's chamber every night only to hear the lewd sound of sex, they gave Kagaya such nickname. By now, the nickname already spread to the civilian population. The emperor didn't know how his people interpret such nickname, but for him, as Kagaya's husband, it was very accurate. It also sounded cute and endearing. Thus, to him, Kagaya was his rabbit empress. "Of course, dearest. Of course. Time skip. Kagaya, please run without me. I'll hold them as long as I can. And no, husband, please don't say that." The emperor ignored the plea of his wife as he gave her a little push to the direction of the Shinju. Behind him, his men stood waiting, their expressions cold and stiff when they heard the sound of incoming horses. The emperor heard this too, and he immediately gave Kagaya his back while wielding his bow. "My rabbit empress, please live. For me and for our child." "Husband. Please, Kagaya." Kagaya cannot see the expression her husband had. But from his tone alone, she knew he was not asking her. It was a beg. He was begging her to run and survive without him. With tears streaming down on her cheeks, Kagaya turned tail and ran as fast as she can toward the direction of Shinju. Her husband wanted her to run to Shinju because no matter how daring his enemy was, they won't dare to attack Shinju nor anyone inside it. But Kagaya? She had another plan. "Husband, please wait for me. Once I eat the divine fruit, I'll save you." She was a failure of Otsutsuki clan. Her body was weak even compared to her clan's servants. And she knew to eat the divine fruit would be a sure way to kill herself, considering her weak body probably won't be able to handle the powers the fruit may give her. But for her husband, even to put her own life on the line, she's willing. "Husband, don't die." Tears streamed even harder when Kagaya heard the sound of battle behind her. Gods, demons. She only wanted one thing and one thing only, and that is for her husband to stay safe and sound. It took time, but in the end, Kagaya arrived at the peak of the Shinju, holding her stomach. It hurt. It hurt so much. Nonetheless, Kagaya ignored the pain as she began to walk toward the hovering divine fruit that looked like a normal peach if one were to see it, albeit glowing a little. And when she saw the glow, Kagaya's eyes showed a little bit of hope. The fruits, reacting to her presence? It should increase her chance of survival. With a pair of trembling hands, Kagaya took the hovering fruit and put it in front of her lips. Bite. Her stomach burns from the first bite she took as chakra began to gather inside her body. Her pathways, long sealed by her clan, began to open up one by one, painfully. Bite. Crack. Her bones cracked and repaired as Kagaya began to grow from already impressive 5 feet 7 inches feet to monstrous 7 feet 0 inches foot, more than 2 meters tall in height. The pain was almost unbearable. Bite. Silky white hairs began to float magically as each strand became so long that it was even longer than her already tall body. This one's not painful at all. Bite. The pain came back as chakra once again began to converge atop her head, so painful that Kaguya lost her consciousness for a small second. But she willed herself to come back, knowing what was on the line. Unknown to her, two bone-like horns already sat on her head. Bite. Aya! This time, no matter how durable she was and no matter how high her will was, Kaguya can't help but to scream in anguish as chakra exploded from her forehead and eyes. Rina Sharingan, awakened. Sealed Byakugan, awakened. But no, it was not the pain that made her scream in anguish. Her eyes let her see everything for miles. And when she focused her attention to the battlefield where she left her husband, she saw him, lying on his own pool of blood. It was at this day Kaguya experienced rage for the first time. And the world itself shook when she did. Later, fleshes turned to dust swept by the winds. Bones became nothing but sands on the ground. And weapons were buried under all of these. Husband. In the middle of such grim clearing, Kaguya knelt down, scooping the body of her dearest with nothing but gentleness in her touch. He's alive. But his vitals had been wounded so much that it was impossible for him to survive. Hell, it was a miracle that he's still breathing. Cough. Cough. Kei Kaguya. As the dying emperor coughed several blobs of blood, Kaguya cried and embraced him. The crimson smearing her kimono was little to no concern for her as long as she can embrace the love of her life. Husband, I'm so sorry. Sorry because she was not fast enough. Sorry because she didn't know how to save him even with all of the chakra running through her veins. And sorry because she killed so many people in front of him. Alas, the emperor was dying. He cannot hear the words she said, nor he can feel the warmth his wife gave to him through her embrace. Kei Kaguya, I have nothing and now, not even a small hut. Would you still love me? Thorough his words, blobs of blood kept coming out from the emperor's mouth as he coughed them out again. Kaguya cried even harder here, and just like a child, she started to bawl in sobs. You'll still have me. Forever and ever. I'm yours. I promise. Maybe it was coincidence, but right after Kaguya finished her words, her cry of anguish became louder. In the dead silence of the night, she lost her husband. 20 years later, sat still on top of a very regal throne, Kaguya gave off a very demanding aura that only royalty can make. Her eyes narrowed. What is that son of mine doing now? With her all-seeing eyes, it was very easy for Kaguya to see that her firstborn, Hagoromo Otsutsuki, was giving lesson to some civilians. As for her second-born, younger than his brother by a few minutes at most, Hamura Otsutsuki, he was meditating. And of course, her question was pointed toward Hagoromo. Teaching humans. Humph. What a stupid thing to do. She'll let him do what he wants to do for now, though. After all, it seemed Hagoromo is yet to mature unlike his little brother. Here, Kaguya stood. Zetsu. Yes, my queen. Her shadow followed suit and stood, a perfect replica of her majestic and beautiful figure. Only black from head to toes except for a pair of yellow, predatory eyes. And when the creature spoke, her mouth opened, showing the unmoving flesh underneath. Her host, a human woman she captured to become her bones. Of course, it wasn't consensual, but after a full day of black goo raping her mouth, vagina, and asshole, the woman in the end gave up and now consent to spend the rest of her life trapped inside a goo creature who'll rape her day and night. For a small second, Kaguya took a small glance toward the woman trapped inside the black Zetsu with nothing but disgust. Said disgust multiplied when the woman she watched shamelessly came like a slut. Human. Alas, it was needed. Black Zetsu was her very first creation, tasked to find the reincarnation of her dearest husband. However, because it was her first creation, the creature was imperfect and was not able to shape its own body. Thus, it was nothing but a black moving puddle for a few days. A week after that, the creature was able to shape itself into a man. A man. Her will-given shape became a man. She was rightfully angry and annoyed. But she was patient and tried to teach the creature how to shape itself into a woman. At the very least, a girl. It was hard. Because it was literally a puddle of living shadow. Every time Zetsu tried to create a pair of breasts, said breasts would always fall to the ground. After a few days of trying and failing, in the end Kaguya decided that enough was enough. Mercilessly, the goddess teleported to the city at night and captured a woman with the most impressive body. One that she threw to Zetsu after she teleported back. Eat her. Eat? WHMNPPHH. Kaguya still remembers it vividly, how the woman became a panic mess as black tendrils wrapped her body parts one by one until nothing can be seen anymore. The woman struggled, punching and kicking black Zetsu from the inside. Even if Zetsu knocked the woman unconscious, she would surely continue her struggle the very second she woke up, was the very thought that crossed Kaguya's mind at the time. And because Zetsu was young and yet to understand about sex, Kaguya's order for the creature was simple. Insert and extract your goo into the woman's holes except for her eyes and nostrils until she calmed down. And when she did, quicken the pace. Thus, the entire history of why Zetsu was able to remain in a woman-like shape instead of a puddle-like state or its stupid man-like shape. Yes, it would need a living woman to be used as bones. But Kaguya was sure that with time, Zetsu will be able to hold her female form without any difficulty. Maybe. Plus, a few women are not something Kaguya care about. Anyway, have you found him? My husband. I haven't, my queen. I think he's yet to reincarnate. For a small second, the empress/goddess had her bottom lip tremble from sadness. Kaguya was losing her mind. It has been 20 years and she had searched every corner of the world and was yet to find the reincarnation of her dearest husband. Still, all she can do for now is wait. Let's go to the usual place. The moment Black Zetsu connected her shadow to her, Kaguya waved her wide sleeve and transported herself along with the creature to one of her secret places. 1 second, she was in her throne room. Another second, and she stood in a dark room under the god tree Shinju. And the room was massive, with a throne made by dark onyx sat at the edge of a cliff where Kaguya could see the entire process of her experiments. What kind of experiment? Humph. Kaguya sat on her dark throne. Her eyes took a small glance toward the ceiling, the roots of Shinju itself. Hundred upon hundred of women were there, dazed and cocooned by tendrils of roots that covers their head to toes. Every few seconds, juice dripped off from their pussies as tendrils dug into their cunts and injected a small amount of corroding chakra of deity into their bodies. Thud. As the chakra of deity fully corroded a woman, she fell from her cocoon onto the ground below. Her previous appearance now no longer can be seen. Not as tall as Kaguya, but still stood at impressive 2 meters, the woman was nude. Her skin was snow white, her green hairs wild and untamed, yet still reached her waist. And lastly, her eyes were predatory yellow just like Black Zetsu. White Zetsu. And surrounding the newly born White Zetsu, thousands of creatures just like her can be seen stood like statues awaiting command. 20 years. And each year, the humans gave 200s of their young woman to the Shinju to appease Kaguya's rage. Literally said, Kaguya now had an army of more than 3,800 White Zetsu, with the rest of 200s were still in the middle of their transformation. My queen, I don't think you should stay here for long. This place reek of lust and women liquid. Black Zetsu said as respectfully as she could toward her creator and mother. Kaguya herself merely gave her a small glance when she heard the creature spoke. I'll stay here for a few more minutes. After she said this, Kaguya leaned her back against the backrest of her throne and closed her eyes. Her mind, empowered by the divine fruit, was connected to the Shinju almost instantly. Shinju, and its roots. Twitch. MNH. She could feel the smallest twitch the cocooned women made. She could hear the smallest mule escaped the women's mouth. And each time, her own craving for sex began to bubble. She was the rabbit empress, known for her high libido and never-ending sex drive. She was the rabbit goddess, simply because her horns were shaped like a pair of rabbit's ears. And there was only one man in her heart, the emperor. Still, her libido was not something she could easily suppress and contain. Thus, with nothing but thought, Kaguya searched for the most endowed woman among the women she captured. And when she did, she immediately took control of the roots cocooning said woman. GHHMNNPPH. Illusion placed on the woman broke when Kaguya mercilessly raped the woman's 3 holes. Her muffled scream of pain and pleasure immediately filled the whole room as the goddess did this. Kaguya didn't care. Nor did she care when the woman began to struggle, as she simply willed the Shinju to cocoon the struggling woman with another layer of tendril. In less than a minute, Kaguya was satisfied as her used sex toy fell to the ground, fully corroded and joining the rest of white Zetsu. That should take care of her libido for a week at most. She had to be as sparing as she can when it comes to her limited sex toys, after all. With nothing but a thought, Kaguya left her secret room. 30 years later. This place is wet. Once again inside her secret tomb, Kaguya frowned a little when she realized how wet the room was after 50 years of constantly having women dripping their juice again and again every single day. The lewd smell was unbearable even to her now. My queen, let me take care of it. Kaguya didn't say anything to response the creature for a few seconds. But after few seconds passed, she nodded to herself. Gather their liquid. I have a plan for those. Understood. Inside the room, time and space was at Kaguya's beck and call. And thus, until she allowed those women juices to dry up, they simply won't. And it was for this reason that when Black Zetsu came back to her, the blob of liquid hovering behind her was almost as big as a small mountain. The lewd smell became even more unbearable, so much that Kaguya frowned for a quick second. But still, the goddess stood and walked until she was right beside the huge blob of female's juice. And here she spoke. I shall give you a chance to live to your desire. Lust. Your mission is to go to the land of that, terrorize the people there, capture the women and strengthen yourself by absorbing their essence. From her sleeve, Kaguya took out a blank, white-colored no mask which she injected with her own will and massive amount of libido. And after she did, she sticked the mask on the blob. From now on, your name is Rabi. The change was obvious. The moment Kaguya gave the creature its name, a kanji for 0 ling, ray, appeared on the forehead of the mask. At the same time, the blob began to turn dark in color as it changed its shape. Soon, a huge creature resembling dark purple leech with a serpent-like body was made, with the mask acting as its face. It didn't take long for the newly made Rabi to understand its mission as with a screech, it dug the ground and began to slither in the direction of the land of that, mysteriously without damaging the ground. Still inside the secret room, Kaguya took her seat on her throne once again, happy that the unbearable scent of lewdness now disappeared. Zetsu, I made Rabi with my will just like how I made you. Treat her like a sister. Just like Black Zetsu, Rabi was also genderless. However, Kaguya didn't call the creature it, simply because she did such thing to Zetsu and it became a man right in front of her. So yeah, she's going to treat Rabi as female before the creature chose its own form. Plus, it would be strange for a creature made with female's fluid to become a man. This Zetsu understood and thankful for this kindness, my queen. I shall treat Rabi as my own sister and teach her about everything she needs to know. Zetsu was ecstatic. For years, there was only her and her queen, trying and failing to find the reincarnation of the emperor. And now, their family got another member inside the fold. When the emperor return, he'll be loved. 20 years later. Mother, have you gone crazy? Hovering in the sky above the Shinju, Hagoromo, her firstborn, screamed at her. Under them, thousands of people were cocooned by the god tree as Kaguya willed it to suck the chakra those people had. And no, she didn't give those people any kind of pleasure this time. In contrast, she made sure to make the process as painful as possible. No, son, have you gone crazy? What stupid idea crossed your mind when you gave those humans chakra? My chakra. At the end of her words, Kaguya was growling with anger as the veins at the sides of her eyes pulsed powerful amount of chakra. It was her who ate the divine fruit. It was her who had to endure the pain of losing her dearest in a war. It was her who gave her children chakra so they can protect themselves. And now, Hagoromo dared to think that he had the right to spread her chakra to humans as if chakra was some kind of leaves that grow on tree? Stupid, that's what. Chakra can connect people, mother. Just like you, I wish for peace. If people can understand each other through chakra, peace will surely happen. You gave people chakra and so they will be able to do this? With a demonic scream and a wave of her hand, Kaguya sent a powerful storm toward her son. Of course, she didn't make it strong enough to hurt him. But still, Hagoromo guarded his face before any debris could enter his eyes. I believe they will not do such a thing, mother. I'll teach them the correct way. Foolish, Kaguya said simply. It was short, but her eyes alone spoke how she thought about her firstborn son's plan. Stupid. How long did he think he's going to life? Even with powerful blood of Otsutsuki running through his veins, Hagoromo was still a half-human. Time will be the end of him no matter what he said and do. And when his death comes, how long it would take before humans start to weaponize chakra. Not long enough, Kaguya believed. One hand raised, Kaguya gave the coldest stare she ever gave toward her son. And Hagoromo could only stare in horror as he felt the Shinju's roots spread across the whole planet and captured all humans on it with its tendrils. 1 year. Kaguya spoke coldly and without any remorse whatsoever. Once 1 year has passed, these humans will die as my chakra inside them return to me. Plan your next move carefully within a year, Hagoromo. I'll wait for you on top of the Shinju. With those as her last words, Kaguya left her downtrodden-looking son as she teleported to the peak of Shinju and sat there in a Seiza position. It was not until her son flew in the direction of his twin that Kaguya called her first creation. Zetsu, I'll let my stupid sons to seal me with whatever technique they can think of. I want you to seal the entrance to my secret room and manage it in my absence. My Q-Queen? From her shadow, the goo-like creature shaped just like her came out. Her liquid body trembled in nervousness after she got her new order. Kaguya gave the creature a pair of eyes that said no. She won't change her mind. I want to sleep. Without my husband, this life feels hollow and empty. And her sons were stupid, it seemed. Take some of my chakra and roam the planet. You might manage the creation of White Zetsu, but don't forget your main reason. Find the reincarnation of my husband. And once you do, wake me up from my slumber. Despite still somewhat hesitant, Black Zetsu in the end walked until she stood in front of her creator and knelt down on one knee to show her reverence. This Black Zetsu understood, my queen. However, if I'm allowed to ask, instead of chakra, I'd like to have another little sister that I can call as my own. Rabi, she's a rebel. Of course, Rabi. Thinking about that creature's attic alone was enough to put a migraine on Kaguya's head. Her order was simple. Go to the land of that and create as much ruckus as you can. Also empower yourself if you got the chance. Ruckus. That's what Kaguya told her. And yet, what did Rabi do? She swallowed the whole nation, killed thousands of men and caught thousands of women to be constantly raped inside her rapidly growing body. By this point, Rabi's already as big as a mountain and even titled the Demon Lord of Darkness and Lust by the masses. She'd be targeted by her sons sooner or later, that's for sure. All right? As gently as she could, Kaguya held some batches of her hair in her hand and cut them. Her will to reunite with her husband, her unconditional love for him, and her infinite amount of lust for him. As Kaguya began to inject these feelings of hers into the hairs, they began to change color from white into crimson red. The color was unexpected, but it still put a soft smile on the goddess's face. It reminded her of red strings of fate, a crimson windflowers. Fuca, that shall be your name from now on. Roam the planet and find my love. That will be your main mission. Magically, the strands of hair began to levitate in front of her and became longer until she was about 2 meters in height. In the place of where a face should be, a black faceless center can be seen with a pair of predatory yellow eyes. Go, Zetsu. Teach her everything I taught you once. Yes, my queen. Thus, Zetsu disappeared along with her new sister, leaving Kaguya all alone while trying to take as much chakra as she can from the humans before her foolish sons came. And while she did, she was dreaming about the days she spent with her love. The day she sat at the cliff with him holding hands. The day she laughed so freely when he told her some jokes. The day he shyly kissed her lips after their wedding ceremony. And the day they made their love. My love, please wait for me. Under the moonlight, Kaguya smiled as she dreamed of the day where she could be reunited with the love of her life once again. And when that day happened, she will protect him. Chapter 2: Reincarnation and the Haunted Boy. Start. If there was a word that one Naruto Uzumaki could use to explain his life, then it would be simple: shitty. Yes, his life was shitty as hell. Born in the 10th October, the day where the Kyuubi attacked the village, he was seen as a pariah and the bringer of bad luck almost instantly. It didn't help that his parents died and no one knew about their identities for some reason. Those reasons above alone made his life bad. But it didn't stop there, because for some reason he was haunted since the day he was born. Yes, haunted. From what he heard, it started with a small rumor of items around him were moving around when he was a baby, followed by another bigger rumor that he was apparently blonde and his hair became white overnight. One person even dared themselves to say that they saw a black, shadow-like creature giving him a breastfeed when he was crying, all the while humming a very haunting tone. Fuck, that was terrifying. As for Naruto himself, he was too terrified to stare into a mirror since the day he understood what the word ghost means, because from what he heard, add the fact the other kids kept teasing him about it. The very second he truly meet the ghost that was haunting him, he'd be spirited away. No one really know what spirited away mean, of course, but kids had a very creative imagination, and thus, Naruto decided that he didn't want to get eaten by ghost. Not when ghost itself cannot be touched, and he'd be literally defenseless the moment he met it. Naruto, stop daydreaming and answer the question. Alas, his thought broke when a chalk hit him right on the dead center of his forehead. The boy, 12 years old age in a few months, immediately covered his forehead while hissing in pain, although he laughed nervously when he saw the angry expression of his teacher. Ha. I'm sorry, sensei. Can you please repeat the question? He didn't hear it after all. For the answer, one Irika Yumino pointed at the edge of the room near the door. Stand there with one leg. You should know already by now that I won't accept any slouch behavior. Naruto. Hi. Naruto answered with a roll of eyes as he walked to the area where Irika pointed to. All the while, his classmates were laughing at him. Said laugh became louder when Naruto stood with one leg, although he merely gave them a small pout of annoyance. By now, the area he was standing on has been dubbed as Lazy People Chair because thus far only him, Shikamaru, or Kiba who got constantly punished this way. All three were lazy in some ways or another. Sensei, how long do I need to do this? Irika, who just now wanted to write another lesson on the chalkboard, stopped for a few seconds, seemingly thinking. Although in the end, his punishment was as merciless as always. Till my class end, Naruto. Till my class end. You don't need to repeat that, sensei. Comically, Naruto raged a little when Irika said his punishment 2 times. Uncaring, said sensei merely started to write on the chalkboard. Keep you focused now, Naruto. You don't want to stand outside and let the children from other classrooms see you, right? And that shut Naruto's mouth before he can speak another word. Chichike. A few minutes since Naruto kept his silent. His stomach growled a little. He wants ramen. Nearby, a girl who looked a little bit older than the rest of her classmates let out a small smile when she saw Naruto getting punished once again. Her eyes, a pair of infamous Byakugan, showed nothing but amusement for the boy's plight, knowing he must be hungry because he didn't get to eat breakfast in the morning. The first thing she did the very second she woke up was to use her Byakugan to peep on him, after all. Just as she was thinking like this, a 4-pointed mark on the back of her right hand glowed a little with a dim light, followed by a powerful voice which rang in her mind. Do not stare at him too much, descendant. I may have given you an approval to become my husband's concubine, but you are yet to be worthy enough for that. You're still weak. Almost immediately, the girl's eyes went back to the direction of the teacher, nervous and shy when her own ancestor reprimanded her for her slight. More than 6 years since she got the mark and hear the voice of her ancestor in her mind, the girl knew how to differentiate the tone of her clan ancestor. And right now, the woman's annoyed. I am sorry, Kaguya-sama. I just can't help but to stare when Naruto-kun was pouting so cutely. The girl said with nothing but honesty. And maybe because she sensed this, or simply because she knew her words to be fact, Kaguya Otsutsuki, the ancestor of the Hyuga clan, didn't continue her reprimand. But she still let out a small harumph. Humph, you speak fact. However, do not forget your mission, girl. Raise your strength. I shan't be happy if you still wish to become my husband concubine, yet still as weak as civilian. For a bit, the girl's lips twitched a little. She was kind of upset that the ancestor living inside her still think her as a little girl who's as weak as a civilian when actually, she'd be the best genin in the whole school if she didn't have to hide her power. She was no longer the girl scared of her own shadow. No longer the girl who let the words from her own family hurt her heart. No longer the girl who simply knelt down as other children threw snowballs at her and waited until her prince came to help her pathetic self. No. 6 years ago, she has vowed that she's the one who gonna protect him. My son was as strong as your so-called Kage when he was nothing but a 3-year-old baby. So, before you can defeat that Kage of yours in pure combat, you'll always be a civilian in my eyes. Easily heard the girl's heart. The goddess spoke. Kaguya-sama, your son was the sage of 6 paths. And you're my descendant, my blood flow in your veins, and my presence in this karma seal has made you the purest Hyuga compared to the others from your clan, even bringing you as the closest thing as pure as a Hyuga can get. So, stop whining and keep training. Cannot win against that argument. The girl let out a small sigh from her lips. Her eyes were on the board while one of her palms playing around with her shoulder-length indigo-colored hair. She gave up. Yes, ma'am. I'll train harder. Good. This night, I want you to activate your eyes and keep watch on the people from Yamanaka clan. They have a very peculiar ability of ejecting their conscious and put it in other creatures. I want you to learn it. The girl nodded. To other people, it might be funny how the girl agreed so fast at the prospect of learning another bloodline technique from other clan, considering the word bloodline alone made sure that as a Hyuga, she shouldn't be able to do it. But just as her ancestor has said a few seconds ago, her blood and the presence of karma seal on her hand made sure that she was the closest person to be a pure Hyuga, with the exception of people from the Otsutsuki clan themselves. And all bloodlines in the world came from Kaguya without exception, the progenitor of Hyuga clan. Thus, albeit it would be hard to do, she should be able to learn Yamanaka clan technique with some training. Although, Sensei, if I may ask, considering we're going to graduate in a few months, shouldn't we train in our ninjutsu instead? When Irika stopped his talk, the girl raised her hand up and said this with confidence in her tone. Around her, the kids were also nodding along, agreed at what she said. Even Naruto was giving her a happy and cute smile from where he stood, knowing Irika won't leave him in the classroom to stand with one leg if the others were to come out and train their jutsu. He's so cute. I guess that's true. Good idea, Hinata. All right, class, let's go outside and train in usual chakra control technique before you guys start shooting technique. And just like that, the class was emptied almost instantly as the kids went out to the clearing beside the building. Yes, even Naruto, who had the biggest cute smile on his face. Within a minute, the girl was left alone. Good idea. This way you can watch a Yamanaka technique up close. The heir of Yamanaka clan, Ino Yamanaka, was a member of her classroom, after all. I aim to please Kaguya-sama. The girl spoke inside her mind as she took out a bento wrapped in expensive fabric from her bag and placed it inside Naruto's drawer. Once she did, the girl had a soft blush on her cheeks and a soft smile on her lips while she walked to the outside to follow the others. When the exercise ended, Naruto would be very hungry. She just hoped that the food she prepared for him was enough to fill his adorably big stomach. Say, Kaguya-sama, what am I going to do with Yamanaka clan technique once I mastered it? I have an idea. I'll tell you when the time's right. For now, you just need to learn it. Yes, ma'am. The girl called Hinata would have pouted when her question was not answered. The only reason she didn't was simply because she knew when Kaguya deemed her worthy enough to know, the woman will tell her without her needing to ask. She had known the rabbit goddess for 6 years. The woman has been her strict mentor since the day her father deemed her unworthy to bear the title of heir for Hyuga clan, after all. Flashback. For one 6-year-old Hinata Hyuga, the firstborn of Hyuga's clan head, the day was upsetting enough when she was late to wake up and missed her chance to take a peek on her crush's morning routine. Then it became upsetting for real when she got herself beaten up in a sparring match against her cousin, Niji Hyuga, followed by her father's usual harsh words as she got reprimanded. At first, she thought her day wasn't that bad because she was happy that it was also the very first day her little sister, Hanabi Hyuga, got her chance to train in their clan's sacred technique, the gentle fist. She cheered on her sister as she trains, of course. Alas, the day wasn't really that good for her. Hanabi seems to quickly grasp on the main aspect of gentle fist, and there's also no hesitancy in each of her strike. Say, why don't we vote for her to be the heir instead? Despite the elder said those words in a hushed manner, Hinata was still able to hear it simply because she was near him. Add the fact the elder in question didn't seem to care whether she was near or not. Another elder. The one first elder spoke to gave a small nod here. That's true, but let's wait for another 2 years or so. If Hinata's indeed not worthy to become the heir, I think it would be prudent of us to give the title to little Hanabi. And when those words hit her ears, Hinata immediately went to her room to lament her inability to change the perception her family had when it come to her. Or was it really her that need to change? Of course. Do you really believe that the world will change their look just because you wanted it to? Just as she was lamenting her weakness, Hinata found herself startled when she realized that she was no longer inside her bedroom and actually stood on a hard and very wide stone flooring. In front of her, a few meters away, was a throne befitting a royalty. And sat on said throne, a regal woman about 2 meters in height can be seen, staring at her with eyes filled with nothing but complication. Her eyes were a pair of Byakugan. Who are you? I'm your ancestor. You may call me Kaguya-sama, the mother of your so-called sage of 6 paths. There was a little hint of bitterness when the woman called the title of her own son. But Hinata didn't notice this because she was too shocked to hear that the ancestor of her clan was also the mother of such legendary figure. Which mean her clan was a direct descendant of Sage of 6 Paths. Wrong, the descendants of that son of mine split into Uchiha and Senju, the latter then split into Uzumaki. You Hyuga came from another son of mine, Hamura. Easily read what the girl was thinking. The goddess spoke before she could misunderstand and gain wrong knowledge. And that's not something she want. I see, my end name is Hinata Hyuga, Kaguya-sama. Is there anything I could help you with? Maybe the woman's just an imagination that she made in her sadness. But still, Hinata tried to be as polite as possible to her ancestor just in case she is real. The woman was able to enter her consciousness, or she was the one who got pulled into the woman's domain. But there is one thing Hinata was sure of. She doesn't want to know what other things the woman can do to her if she offended her in some way. You used your head. That's good. The ancestor of Hyuga clan said, complimenting the girl who reminded her of her past self. Soft-spoken. Weak. And so in love with a person that has been her son since he saved her from bullies. But still, the boy she has a crush in is the reincarnation of her dearest emperor. Similar to her or not, the little girl in front of her won't get any mercy from her if she didn't know her place. As for what I need, I'll give you a chance to choose, little one. Here, Kaguya stood to her full height, towering over the little Hinata with her unnatural height alone. And her eyes, they're cold. The boy you called Naruto is the reincarnation of my dearest husband, one that I have been waiting for 1,000 years. Now choose. Would you like me to devour all of your memories, soul, and body so I could fully revive myself and embrace my husband? Or, talking to a mere 6-year-old child, Kaguya said all of these as slow as she can. All the while, she was walking to the terrified girl in question who cannot do anything except to back away, trying to get some distance between her and her ancestor. It didn't help at all. For some reason, or you could change yourself. Be stronger until I deem you worthy to become my right-hand woman. And once you do, I might let you become my husband's concubine. When there was another choice except to die, Hinata nodded so fast that her neck let out a small cracking sound. Immediately agree simply because she didn't want to die. Not like this. Amused, the goddess put a small, yet terrifying smile on her face. Good. For a quick second, Hinata felt a stinging sensation on her right hand. That's my karma seal. It'll slowly change your DNA until they're similar to mine. It will surely help you in your quest to become strong. Do not disappoint me, little descendant. And just like that, Hinata returned to her bedroom, panting and crying in fear. As she sobbed, she thought and hoped that it was just a dream. A quick dream because she fell asleep for a few minutes. Alas, when she raised her right hand until it was at the same level as her face, she became a trembling mess. There, a mark can be seen, glowing with a soft, ancient chakra that was obviously not hers. And she cried. Back to the present. It has been 6 years since that day, and to one Hinata Hyuga, life wasn't that bad, honestly. Sure, for the first week since she met her ancestor, she was a trembling mess simply because the threat of death looming over her head was enough to make her terrified. But once said week passed, she fully comprehended what's the price gonna be if she disappointed her ancestor, and also the gift she got and will get in the future for all of her troubles. Naruto-kun. It wasn't a surprise to her that her crush was the reincarnation of an emperor of the past. With his kindness and cute smile, he could be a god in his past life and it would be no surprise to her. She was still upset that she cannot become his only wife in the future though. But, to stand beside him as his concubine, taking care all of his necessities, that would be alright too. Hajime! Just as she was daydreaming, Hinata's thought was broken when she heard the scream of her teacher, Irika Yumino, when he was calling the match for her Naruto-kun and his supposedly rival, Sasuke Uchiha. Even though it was obvious that there'd be no sparring and only chakra control technique today, it seemed the two was still able to convince Irika that they needed to fight each other before they can start training. So adorable. Not Sasuke, of course. His smug smile alone was puke-inducing to her. As much as I want to see my dearest husband when he's still a boy and at his cutest, I sense the Yamanaka girl's chakra activate a little. It seems she's training in her clan technique. Observe her. Without any argument, Hinata turned her attention to the girl's side of training field. And just like her ancestor had said, Ino was sitting in cross-legged position while doing a pose with her thumb and index fingers. Byakugan active, Hinata saw what most people simply cannot. Ino's chakra was moving gently from her core to her brain. It moved at quick pace onto her posed hands as if to shot. Although, the girl merely stopped the chakra in her hands before she did shoot her chakra and conscious away. And just like that, Ino kept repeating the chakra movement. I expected more from a clan specialized in mind techniques, but it seems I expected too much. Little descendant, you should be able to do that easily without any training. Don't mind the bloodline nonsense. From what I can see, the people from Yamanaka merely have more durable mind compared to normal people. Calling it bloodline when all they had was just more durable mind compared to most people, who are they kidding? So disappointing. I understand, ancestor. For half an hour or so, Hinata kept her focus on Ino just in case there was indeed some secret to Yamanaka's bloodline except their durable mind which let them able to shot said mind and latch it into another person's consciousness. Alas, there was no such thing. And thus, once she was very sure of this, Hinata turned her attention to her Naruto-kun once again. His fight with Sasuke has ended by the time she did this, though. So unfortunate. With Naruto. I'm hungry. The boy with white hair said while pouting a little, holding his stomach as he went back to his classroom. He lost again, but this time he actually felt Sasuke's kick to his ribcage, and it hurt. His rival has become much stronger since the last time they sparred with each other. So upsetting. Just as he thought like this, Naruto sat on his chair and pulled on his drawer just to amuse himself, although he blinked his eyes several times when he saw a nicely wrapped bento sat inside it. And on top of it, a small note. For my Naruto-kun. Don't give up, I'll always cheer on you from the side even if you don't know I exist. Yours sincerely, the Moon. Moon. There was no one named Moon in his classroom or any other classrooms. But this person has been giving him what he needs when he really needed them. For example, this bento, considering he was indeed hungry as hell. Of course, at first, he thought it was the ghost who haunted him. However, when he talked with his Gigi about it, the old man merely laughed and said that Moon was actually someone who admired him very much. Just like how Sakura admired Sasuke. How did the old man know? He didn't ask. Nor did he ask why this Moon wasn't so open with their feeling to him, unlike Sakura who screamed her feeling for Sasuke at the top of her lung almost every single day. But then again, he understood. He's a pariah. People called him a demon here and there. Whoever this Moon is, they probably don't want him to get an additional problem in his hands just by having such a good friend who was kind enough to watch over him like a guardian angel. After all, even till now he didn't know how to apologize to Tucci and his daughter, considering their sale has gotten negative hit since the day they accepted him in their ramen stand. That's one of the reasons he always ate so much bowls in one sitting. Thank you, Moon. I hope that someday we can become a friend for real. Clapped his hands with a shy smile on his face. Naruto muttered a small prayer before he unwrapped the bento from its cloth binding. And he was hit by such delicious aroma when he did. Thus, Naruto ate his lunch all by lonesome once again, but with nothing except for happiness in his heart, knowing that someone actually cared about his well-being. It's good. Whoever Moon was, Naruto was glad that they're a good cook. Back with Hinata. The clan heir of Hyuga let out a soft smile of happiness when she saw Naruto devouring the food she prepared for him with such gusto and such happiness on his face. It really made the time she spent in the morning cooking worth it. Of course, even with such big portion she prepared for him, Naruto-kun still finished all of it in less than a minute. And once he did, he wrapped the bento back with the cloth and put it inside his bag. He's probably planning to wash it before he put it back in his drawer tomorrow morning. So cute. She's gonna take that bento box from his bag later when he was not around. After all, he can just do whatever he wanted or just sit tight as cute as possible and let her do the chores for him. Just as she thought like this, her crush came out of the classroom once again. Looking for something? Or someone? TME. I'm full now. I dare you to fight me at my 100%. Yeah, something like that. For a bit, Hinata's smile became a little bit wry. Just what did her Naruto-kun saw in such prick like Sasuke? She simply cannot guess the answer. I told you to kill that boy. He annoys me greatly and he keep hurting my husband. If you don't want to, I will. Kaguya spoke like a woman who was talking about the weather. And here, Hinata's smile became even more wry. Kaguya-sama, it's not that I don't want to. However, Naruto-kun seems to befriend Uchiha-san in his own way. I simply don't want to take his friend away from him. It would devastate him. The day Naruto heard about Sasuke's death, Hinata was 100% that he'd bawl his eyes out like there was no tomorrow, because to him, Sasuke was his best friend no matter how it looked like in the outside. And as someone who loved Naruto dearly, she doesn't want to take part in anything that could upset him. Plus, the Hokage has become much more active in his search for the ghost. After all, you kidnapped 100 civilian women in this year alone, Kaguya-sama. To kill the last loyal Uchiha will not only Naruto-kun's ire, but also the ire of the whole Konoha population. Kaguya didn't give Hinata any answer to her statement, mostly because she actually kidnapped more than 100 women in the last year. 100 was only the number of women she kidnapped from Konoha. Well, not really her. Just Zetsu who she ordered to do so. As for Hinata's reason for not wanting to kill Sasuke, Well, she didn't want to agree, but she had to, considering it was the truth. Anyway, I need them, both for my sexual need and to increase the number of my army. Kaguya spoke about the kidnapped women as she no longer wished to talk about stupid Uchiha descendant and her plan to kill him. Yet, now, as for the women she kidnapped, she just had to. After all, her libido won't die down by itself. And her dearest husband's still a few months away from his 12 years birthday. Once he reached 12 though, she won't need those mindless women who can only moan as they got raped. After all, 12 years old mean he was old enough to kill and have sex. She will train her dearest so he won't have a back pain from each sex in the future. As for how she's going to have sex with him, she already got the plan in her head. Kaguya-sama, please, calm down. Because they were literally sharing one body. When Kaguya began to think dirty, the heat on Hinata's groin began to get warmer and needy. Alas, her ancestor was ruthless. I can't. Go to the bathroom if you really need a release. Thus, with a red face and wet groin, Hinata ran to the bathroom as quick as she could after she asked the permission from Irika. Naruto-kun must have thought her as weird again, considering he probably saw her ran to the direction of the bathroom on his way to challenge Sasuke for the second time. Alas, it was just her luck that when Hinata arrived at the female side of the school toilet, the only person there was a woman who she knew as Kanade, the teacher who taught her class a few times when Irika wasn't available. The woman wasn't as beautiful as some older kunoichi that Hinata knew, but still, she knew what to do when her groin began to feel so hot that it was rather uncomfortable. Kanade-sensei, good afternoon. Oh, Hinata-chan, are you going to use the toilet? Go on, I just finished seconds ago. The woman responded kindly the moment she saw one of her temporary students from Irika's class. Of course, she had to say the last sentence because Hinata had a rather thick red patch on her cheeks, which she concluded that the girl already endured for too long and can no longer do it. Thank you, sensei. And I'm sorry. For a small second, the woman was confused about those last words that Hinata muttered. However, she didn't get any time to ask because not a second later, the ground under her began to get wet and ruthlessly yanked her downward into the darkness of the shadow. Goo started to fill her mouth as several tendrils caught her limbs and hundreds of shadowy tentacles began to rape every inch of her body. Each movement gave her a jolt of pleasure that she never felt before. And just like that, she lost her mind a few minutes later from overpleasure. Another woman spirited away by the ghost that haunt Naruto, if one could say. Chapter 3, I don't want to start. The kids were fearful. Each of them was scared to their core when they heard that one of their sensei has been missing for a whole week. The worst part was, not even the people from Inuzuka were able to track the woman. Sure, they tracked her to the toilet, but from there? Not a single clue, except for the scent of other girls and women who came to the toilet to do their things. And thus, right now Naruto stood in front of his grandfather figure with hands folded over his chest. No, Gigi, I told you already, I was fighting with team when Kanade-sensei disappeared, and I didn't sense or see anything else. Are you really sure, Naruto-kun? You know it's not like I don't want to believe you, but this ghost that haunt you, it has started to take this village's people one by one. And thus far, only you who can sense it when it's near. Here, Naruto's eyes trembled in fear. He knew that. But still, I can't sense it, Gigi. I just can feel it when it stare at me. Plus, I am terrified of it. I can't help you at all. Plus, you have that group of yours. Yep, he's fucking terrified of this ghost that began to eat more and more people as days passed. And he was not going to lie about this. Not in front of the Hokage. After all, if he ever put a stupid bravado, his Gigi would surely put him inside that special group under him. Ghost Hunter. Meh. Just a group consisting of many holy people sent by the fire capital to hunt the ghost that haunted him for years. But thus far, they are yet to succeed despite the years they spent in the village. And yet only you can do such thing to this day, my boy. As for the ghost hunter, I'm afraid they gave up and decided to return to the capital in a few months. Really? I never heard this. Naruto said with a pair of wide eyes. Said eyes were trembling because he bought some ghost-repelling talismans that he used in his house from those people. If those people were to go back to the capital, won't he become defenseless if the ghost chose to attack him? Here, Hiruzen nodded with a pair of saddened eyes. Alas, before they could depart, the ghost massacred them. The men were killed without wounds, as if their souls were sucked from their bodies. As for the women, they disappeared just like the other women before them. The only reason Naruto was yet to hear about such a rumor was because he had to put a tight lid on such news. He didn't want his villagers to become a panic mess. It was here. Naruto stared at him with fear in his eyes. No. Yes. I'm afraid the ghost haunting you has become too strong to handle, my boy. That's the reason I need you to help with the search. It was here, for the first time in his life, Hiruzen saw Naruto put his palms together and bowed at him as if to apologize. And his face. It looked as if it held no blood whatsoever from how pale he was. I am truly sorry, Gigi, but Taiden Twanto. Thus, like a man possessed, Naruto ran away from the Hokage's office before his grandfather figure could force him to search for the ghost. Nope. He's not going to be that stupid. Ever. Later. It was a few minutes later that Naruto arrived at the mostly empty academy, where he began to walk to the academy training ground with a slower gait. The school was held off for a few days to mourn their missing teacher, as if the woman has died and won't come back. Ever. He didn't like it, but for Naruto, it just meant he can train all by himself until he was satisfied. Oh, Naruto-kun, are you here to train? Although, when he arrived at the academy training ground, he didn't expect to see one of his classmates, Hinata Hyuga, to be there. And from the look of it, it seemed like she has been training for a few hours. Ah, yes. Are you finished with yours, Hinata? Naruto said with a small shudder when he heard the kun suffix from someone so mysterious like Hinata. Hinata Hyuga, arguably the most mysterious girl in his class simply because she didn't seem to admire Sasuke like other girls. Hell, he saw her puke once after Sasuke greeted her. Not only that, every time he got close to her in the past, her cheeks would turn red for some reason. And thus, he concluded that Hinata Hyuga was allergic to males. You can say that, the girl in front of him said, and just like usual, her cheeks began to turn red the moment she got close to him. You can use the training ground if you wish now, Naruto-kun. Taking her rest, Hinata went to the side where her bag was and sat. She was watching him with a strange glint in her eyes. For some reason. Yeah, okay then. Albeit somewhat shy at first, Naruto still began his own training and entered his zone a few minutes later when he no longer noticed the girl. Though, when half an hour passed, Hinata suddenly talks. Naruto-kun, I think you should learn how to use sword and bow. Startled, Naruto stopped his kata and turned his attention toward Hinata. The girl was eating some snack she prepared, and in her eyes, he didn't see any hint of a joke whatsoever. But still, why? Just a gut feeling that say you'll be good with them. Bow and sword, huh? Naruto mused to himself. Why Hinata gave him such a suggestion, he honestly had no idea. I'm sorry, but I can't do that. Naruto said this to her as he continued his kata. This time a little bit slower because he knew Hinata would continue and it would be rude if he ignored it. As for why he refused her suggestion, well, a bow wouldn't be a problem, but as for a sword, they're rather pricey. It's all right, I'll buy them for you later. As if she was able to read his exact thought, Hinata said this. Of course, when he heard such a thing, Naruto stumbled a little from the shock he felt. He didn't expect that. You don't need to, Hinata. But still, I am thankful for the thought. And, please excuse me, I'll go there to train my kunai throwing. Definitely felt a little bit unnerved by Hinata's strange behavior. Naruto scratched the back of his neck and told her this. And once he did, he walked in the direction of the throwing targets before Hinata could say anything else. She was a little bit stranger than usual. With Hinata herself, she let out a small, trembling sigh when she was able to control her body once again. She lent it to her ancestor just now. Kei Kagaya-sama, I think Naruto-kun think of me as a strange girl now, more than he did previously. Her ancestor didn't give her any answer for a few minutes. But once said few minutes passed, the woman harumphed with nothing but annoyance in her tone. It's your fault. Your body lacked charm and maturity. Back in the days, my husband would do nothing but to stare at my eyes when I spoke. Kaguya said honestly, only to get a small wry smile from her descendant. Kaguya-sama, I'm still 12. Your body has been enchanted with my DNA. It should look around 14 years old and not 12-inch. Here, Hinata didn't give her ancestor any answer. 12 or 14, she's still a child. That won't change overnight, goddess DNA or not. But just as she thought like this, Hinata felt the mark on her hand burn a little. Unlike what she thought at first, the goddess really took that rejection from her husband personally. And the woman's anger, it ran through her body. Though before she could say anything else, she was cut off. Enough, after you graduate, you shall enter one of the domains where I store all the women I took. Time there runs slower than the real world, so you should be able to train your techniques as your body absorbed the energy there. But Kaguya-sama, what about my career as shinobi? As if to call her stupid, the goddess merely huffed. And Hinata knew that the woman must have folded her hands on her chest when she did. All the while, looking at her with annoyance. You'll be saved. Unlike that teacher I took a week ago, you're a classmate of my husband. You're one among his people. So, he won't abandon you and he will do everything he can do to save you, even if it means to enter the domain to follow you. Plus, once Hiruzen opened the lid about Hinata being the moon, Naruto would do nothing but charge, even if it meant facing his own deepest fear. That's just how kind her husband was in the past, and she was pretty sure he won't change much despite the cycle of reincarnation he had. He was the emperor, to care for his people was his driving force to move forward. I see. Then I'll train in the domain just as you tell me to do, Kaguya-sama. Hinata said in the end as she stared in the direction Naruto went to. How slow the time in the domain run through compared to the real world. Her ancestor didn't say anything. But still, let's scratch off about the fact her body's yet to mature for now. The fact is power. There was no way she was going to deny more power if she can help it. Time skip. A few months since Hinata tried to buy him a bow and sword, Naruto woke up on his bed with a small groan. But because he knew today was an important day, he didn't let his laziness take over, and with a little bit of determination, he sat and stood, then walked in the direction of the bathroom. Yawn. He still let out a massive yawn, though. Staring at the mirror, Naruto began to wash his mouth and brush his teeth. Yesterday, his birthday was pretty eventful. Ichiraku Ramen lets him eat so many bowls of ramen for free. Irika gave him a new set of kunai and shuriken. His Gigi gave him some anti-ghost talismans that he got before the massacre of holy men and women. And Moon, well, she gave him some books to read. Sigh. She probably knew about his school grade getting lower. It's what MH fault, though. Naruto said to himself as he spat some water from his mouth. Yeah, it was not his fault that his grade getting lower. With how active the ghost is at kidnapping people these days, he simply became too paranoid because every damn hour or so, he would feel it. The stare. And nope. He's not going to tell his Gigi about it. Knowing the man, he would definitely ask him to help his Umbu to search for the ghost the moment he heard about this single piece of information. Oh well, let's just get ready to go to school. Good morning. Good morning to you too, Hinata-san. Naruto greeted back politely to the girl who immediately had her face flushed red. Unlike a few months ago when she suddenly wanted to buy a pair of a bow and sword for him, Hinata had become a little bit normal. As normal as she usually did, of course. Although, she would occasionally greet him when they met each other on the street. To him? Well, she was not really his friend, but more like an acquaintance simply because he didn't want her to get into trouble by having a friend like him. She's an heir to a pretty well-known clan, after all. Thus, after Naruto greeted back his newest acquaintance, he sat on his seat at the back near the window, waiting until his teacher come. Today, he was going to get assigned to a squad. And, as strange as it might sound, he really hoped to get paired with Sasuke. As for why, the Uchiha was the only person in the class he could comfortably call a friend. In the Hokage office, "Dad, why did you change the team assignment suddenly like this?" In front of the Hokage, several jonins stood with strange expressions on their faces while holding a sheet of paper in their hands. Asuma, the jonin leader of Team 8, was the one who spoke just now. "Puff. I found out about Naruto-kun's talent for espionage and scout, so I had to put him in Team 10, which was planned to be a scout team and not Team 7 assault," the Hokage said simply after he puffed out a rather large sum of smoke from his lips. In his eyes, there was no telltale of a sign to rechange his decision. "Hokage-sama, with no disrespect, but why so sudden? And as for Naruto-san, no matter how good he is at scout, with the QB inside him, he would be a frontline fighter no matter what." This time, these words came out from Kakashi Hatake, the jonin leader for Team 7 and the supposed teacher for Naruto. Beside him, his friends nodded their heads in agreement. "That is true, sir. And this change, Team 8's not even composed of Ino Shikacho anymore. Did the clan leaders say anything about this?" Kurenai, the only female among the three, said, trying to gauge and understand the current situation she and her other jonins had to face so suddenly. For the answer, the Hokage merely tapped his smoking pipe on the table a little. "He would be good as frontline fighter. But something made me change my decision, and that something cannot be told to you jonins. And yes, Kurenai, I consulted this situation with the Shinobi's clan heads prior to the change. All of them agreed with the change. You don't need to fear their disagreement with it." That startled the three jonins. This was seen from their widening eyes. All Shinobi's clan heads agreed? There's no way such a thing could happen if the sole reason was Naruto had a talent for scout, their minds concluded. Now knew that there must be another bigger reason for the change. In the end, the three jonins whose students changed so abruptly merely bowed a little. "We understood, Hokage-sama." "Good. Then go the academy. Your students must be waiting by now." "Hi." Thus, the three disappeared and left nothing but 3 lone leaves in their wake. It was not until several minutes later that Hiruzen let out a very large sigh as he took a small note from his drawer. And written in it with blood, a threat. "Do not separate the sun and the moon, or there'll be a consequence." And the night he got this message, 50 of his ANBUs were killed brutally and 50 more are now considered MIA. Moon, Hinata's pen name because she was too shy to get closer to Naruto. And Sun, Naruto, simply because he was the only person looked up by the moon in question. Puff. "Who are you? And why are you so interested in my grandson?" Hiruzen mused to himself as he stared at the note, trying and failing to decipher any hidden message in it if there was any. Understandably, he didn't find anything. Back with Naruto. Team 7. Sasuke Uchiha, Sakura Haruno, and Kiba Inuzuka. Your team leader will be Kakashi Hatake. The scream Sakura made that day was the biggest and loudest Naruto ever heard, so much louder that he immediately plugged his ears with his fingers. Alas, the boy with Inuzuka's bloodline wasn't so fortunate. Not that he cared, though. Still, it was rather unfortunate that he wasn't put on the same team as Sasuke. Oh well. It's not something he can and should complain about because as a shinobi, he had to be professional and learn to work well with people he wasn't close with. Team 8. Shikamaru Nara, Choji Akimichi, and Shino Aburame. Your team leader will be Asuma Sarutobi. Okay. There were a few mutters from the children the moment the names for Team 8 were called. But it was not surprising, considering it was well-known information that Shika, Choji, and Ino would be put into one team because of their family's connection with each other. What changed? Team 9 is still active, and so, Team 10 will be Hinata Hyuga, Naruto Uzumaki, Ino Yamanaka. Your team leader will be Kurenai Yuhi. Uncaring of a few stares of jealousy from some boys, Naruto raised his right hand almost immediately, his eyebrows crouched. Sensei, I thought it was not recommended for a team to have more than 1 or 2 females. So why my team has 3 in it? He didn't really remember why it wasn't recommended for a team to hold more than 2 females at the same time. But he still remembered the exact words that it wasn't recommended in the book he read, and in some lectures Irika gave him. For the answer, Irika merely nodded. That is true, however. The change was made by Hokage-sama and approved by the clan heads. It's non-negotiable, Naruto. Naruto merely nodded here. Change made by the Hokage alone might not much. Consider he might be able to try to talk with his Jiji if that alone was the case. But the fact it was approved by the clan heads made him nod in defeat. He cannot change that. Just as he thought like this, a beautiful woman with red eyes and a nice-looking battle dress appeared in front of the classroom. And her beautiful appearance alone made some boys blush. Not him, though. Team 10 with me. Professionally, Naruto nodded and stood as he began to follow his new teacher along with Hinata, who gave him a cute smile, and Ino, who gave a longing look at Sasuke Uchiha, only to get no response at all from the emo. What a prick. It's nice to have you in the team, and Naruto-kun. It's nice to have you too, Hinata. I heard many good things about Hyuga clan's prowess. Naruto said while returning the smile Hinata gave to him. Polite to the people who are polite to him, and ruthless to the people who are ruthless to him, that was his motto. As for Hinata, well, she was a little strange, with her red face every time he was near and all. But at the end of the day, she never belittled him or speak bad things behind his back. She was polite, and thus he's going to be polite to her too. Oh my, how about me, Naruto? Have you heard good things about me too? Ino said, suddenly interrupting his and Hinata's smiles at each other. Of course, Naruto didn't really care that much about this and simply gave the heir of Yamanaka a small nod. Unknown to him, Hinata's eyes were shadowed by her bangs the very second Ino interrupted her moment with him. I guess so, but I do like the flower seeds your family sell in your shop. Oh yeah, I did hear from my ma you're one of our regulars. I almost didn't believe it at first, you know? And thus, Team 10 talked with each other as they followed their team leader. A bond made, if one could say. All right, for now let's get to know each other. My name's Kurenai Yuhi, Jonin Genjutsu Specialist. I like my friends, I don't like men who can't stand with their own feet, and my hobby is something I'd rather not say. You next, Hinata. Sat under the shade of a rather large tree, Naruto watched as his newest sensei began to introduce herself. She seemed like a decent person. His mind concluded. And my name's Hinata Hyuga, Genin. I'll like training and as someone who helped me in the past. I don't like people who belittled others just because their upbringing. And my hobby is sewing. Hinata said shyly while poking her index fingers at each other. All the while, her face became redder and redder as each second passed. And when he saw this, Naruto blinked a few times. Hinata. She's adorable. But she has someone who she liked? Geez, what a lucky guy. That's good, Hinata. Ino, your turn. There was a small smile on Kurenai's face when she saw Hinata finish her sentence without fainting when the object of her affection in question sat just a few meters away from her. He didn't seem to realize that the person she liked was him, though. What a pity. My name's Ino Yamanaka. I like Sasuke-kun. I don't like that pig Sakura, and my dream is to open my own flower shop somewhere in the future. For a small second, Kurenai Yuhi's lips twitched downward a little when she saw how smitten her new student was toward one Uchiha heir. Yes, Hinata's also smitten with Naruto, but it's different. For one, Hinata never dieted to make herself look beautiful, and actually always train hard because Naruto always does. As for the boys in question, Naruto was a hard worker who never complained about the villagers' treatment of him. He was also someone who seemed never to look back and always looks forward to the future. He's a good kid. In contrast, Sasuke, ugh. Thinking about that prick alone was enough to put a headache in her head. It'd take a miracle for that boy to grow up into a fine man. That's for sure. Okay, your turn, Naruto. Yes, sensei. From his place, Naruto nodded a little, and after he did, his eyes went to his Jonin sensei's eyes and only that. Another point for him, Kurenai concluded. After all, gods know just how many males stared at her body, men and boys alike. My name's Naruto Uzumaki. I like ramen and training. I don't like stupid people. As for my dream, I want to change this world. Conviction. For a few seconds, Kurenai's eyes widened from how much conviction she heard from Naruto's tone when he said his dream. Yes, she has heard so many times from the other jonins about how the Kyuubi Jinchuriki's dream is to change the world. But hearing it from the source, she could see how serious Naruto was about it. None was able to pry his meaning, though, and she's pretty damn sure she won't be able to do so. She'll respect his privacy. That's some conviction you have there, Naruto-san. Although I am rather confused. From the rumor going around, I heard a ghost is haunting you, yes? You don't hate it? Kurenai asked with a hint of curiosity in her tone. Naruto was haunted by a ghost long since he was a baby, and from what she heard, Naruto himself was scared shitless of ghosts or anything supernatural. So, it was rather strange that he wasn't hating the ghost haunting him. It was here, Naruto shook his head. It's true that I am scared, but I don't hate the ghost in question. It'd take more than a few years of haunting for me to hate someone, ghost or not, sensei. Naruto said with nothing but honesty. Yes, he's scared shitless of ghosts, but to hate the ghost stalking him for years? One who breastfed him when he was a child too. Nonetheless. Nope. Just nope. Okay. For a bit, Kurenai was confused. Did the boy forget that the ghost in question has been killing and kidnapping people left and right? Oh well. Anyway, let's start our training for today. Normally, she would test the three for their teamwork. But considering this team's made with all council members' approval, she probably cannot deny these three of their genin status even if she wanted to. And thus training. Let's just hope Ino can catch up to training maniacs like Naruto and Hinata. Later that night, Naruto remembered he was just closing his eyes. But now? Floating inside nothing but darkness, the boy started to look left and right. Where? Is this a dream? Naruto asked with trepidation in his tone. More so when he felt hundred to thousand of familiar stares of the ghost all around him, caging him. Or is it ghosts now? From fear, Naruto's eyes began to get wide as his body shook like a falling leaf. I am not scared of why you. Why, you better get ready to get a fist to why your face, ghost. Floating, it was hard for him to know which way was up and which way was down. Nonetheless, the fear he experienced was enough to push down any sickening feeling his body felt. And it was then, for the first time in his life, the ghost haunting him gave him a response. In the shape of a laugh that is, Yufu. The voice was booming, enchanting, and came from all directions. And the power behind it, it was enough to freeze Naruto on his feet. No, not even Hokage could exclude this much pressure just by laughing. His fists trembled, his eyes wavered, and across his body, every part of him screamed at him to run, to hide from the monstrosity that is yet to come. Naruto ignored all of these not because he was brave, but because he cannot move from his position. He's scared. He's so fucking scared. Don't come closer. As his voice cracked, tears started to gather in Naruto's eyes. And maybe it was his voice, or maybe it was the sight of him starting to cry. Whichever it was, the stares from all around him disappears just like that. However, one still remains. Right in front of him. SSSH, don't cry. I won't tease you anymore, my dearest. As the shadow gathered and formed the shape of a woman in front of him, Naruto's eyes were immediately drawn to her. Tall was the first thought that crossed his mind. So tall that, if they were to stand side by side, he probably would only reach her stomach. And yet, when he saw her eyes, any fear disappears from his whole body, simply because the woman's eyes held nothing but kindness and adoration for him. For him, I know how I miss seeing that expression on your face. Husband. Naruto was too lost in his staring that when the woman in front of him spoke, it immediately broke him from his thought. And what did she say just now? Husband? Did this woman mistake him for someone else? Alas, for some reason, he was not able to speak his question. The woman in front of him didn't seem too surprised by it, however, as the smile on her lips began to get lower. Seem like the pressure of my soul is too much for your body to handle. Again, Naruto was about to ask something but can't because his mouth refused to speak. And it was here, the ghost knelt on her knees and spread her arms as wide as possible. Didn't know what she was going to do. The boy was about to try to move his body once again when he felt a sudden tug from the direction of the woman. Bansho Tenin. Ergman. Like a projectile, Naruto felt his body get pulled by a mysterious force the very second the woman spoke those two simple words, so fast that it should be painful at the time of impact. But it didn't, simply because his face met with her soft bosom clad in a very expensive-looking kimono. And the moment his body met hers, her arms closed on him, cradling him in a fear-inducing embrace, refusing him any chance to escape. Flap. Flap. For some reason, Naruto was able to move his body after he got captured, and wasted no time at all. He immediately struggled. Alas, his attempt was futile as the woman refused to budge. It was a minute or so later that Naruto stopped, not because he was tired, but because he felt some sort of liquid falling to his head. And when he looked up from the ghost's bosom, he saw it. The woman hugging him. She was crying despite the smile on her lips. She was so happy that she cried. Husband, this time I'll protect you. So please, just wait for me. Frozen because of her words, Naruto didn't do anything when the mysterious woman leaned her face down and gave him a chaste and very soft kiss on the forehead. And after she did this, Naruto saw an expression he never saw pointed at him on her face. Love. Chapter 4. The Start of the Destruction. Start. Naruto woke up with sweat covering all over his face. All across his body, every strand of hair was standing upright from the feeling of fear he experienced just a few seconds ago. Was that her? Naruto muttered to himself as the memory of last night's dream came to him so vividly. Without any question, he was 100% sure that the woman he met was the ghost haunting him for years. She loved him, and yet, to revive herself, she's going to kill every living human across all nations. That woman. I have to stop her, Naruto said to himself. Fear was obvious in his voice, and yet, his conviction was definitely not a lie. He still remembers how heavy the pressure of her chakra was, how she could control gravity with ease, and how, in front of her, how powerless he was. That information was enough for Naruto to realize that no humans would be able to clash against her and win. Hell, not even Hokage could win against that kind of power. That woman, she's not a human. She called me husband. She also didn't harm him and actually said that she wants to protect him. Naruto was pretty sure she won't have the same feeling for other humans. Which mean, only he could stop her before she could rampage through all the nations. Gigi. He has to tell his Gigi about this. But let's just wait for a few minutes before he could do that. After all, he still cannot feel his legs. Later. Bam. Gigi, there's something I need to tell you about. Still pale, but definitely can move his legs, Naruto slammed the door to the Hokage office open and yelled. However, there was a telltale of embarrassment in his eyes when he saw the presence of all council members along with his Jonin sensei, Kurenai Yuhi. Boy, you dare to barge into this office and interrupt our meeting? Naruto gulped down his saliva in fear when he got the full brunt of a creepy glare from Hyuga's clan head, along with several other glares from the other council members. Cough. Fortunately for him, help came in the shape of his Gigi, who coughed into his fist. And just like that, the glares disappeared as everyone's attention returned to the wistful Hokage. Here, said Hokage spoke. Now, don't be so hasty. Naruto-kun was never a rude kid. He'd never interrupt the council meeting if it's not a dire situation. Isn't that right, my boy? Now tell me, do you have any new information? About the ghost haunting you, perhaps. Just like that, the council members shut their mouths. Although in their eyes, telltale of curiosity began to dance, along with a hint of impatience in the Hyuga clan head's case. Still, how did the old man know? Slightly unnerved, Naruto asked this single question. How did you know? For a few seconds, the Hokage merely let out a puff of smoke from his weary lips, and only after that did the old man give the boy his answer. And said answer, Naruto didn't like it. You are usually a light sleeper, my boy. Surprised me that you didn't wake up. But to answer your question, there was an earthquake last night. A big one too at that. And from what I could gather from my ANBUs, it seems several huge gates popped out across all nations. Where the gate goes, we are yet to know the answer. However, the sensor ninjas could sense hundreds different chakra signatures from each gate. We believe each gate will lead us to a place where the kidnapped women being kept. Again, Naruto gulped down his saliva in fear. Normally, this would be the time for Naruto to run away before his Gigi could force him to help with the investigation. But with the ghost in question already visiting him, he can no longer run away. Plus, the fact that said ghost didn't seem to have any intention to harm him was enough to give some backbone, no matter how small it is. Ghost is still his phobia, thank you very much. I see. Then I will tell you about my meeting with her last night. And just like that, Naruto got everyone's attention. It was harder than he thought at first. For one, he had to hide the fact that the ghost called him husband. After all, he doesn't want to know what the council going to do to him if that single piece of information leaked out. Secondly, he had to hide the ghost's appearance. He saw her be a Kugan, but he was pretty sure she was not someone from the Hyuga clan. If he told the council this single piece of information, who knows what kind of backlash the Hyuga clan was going to receive. Better safe than sorry. Thus, he was forced to tell the council that yes, he cannot see the ghost's appearance clearly, and yet he's pretty sure that the said ghost was a woman. He also told the council about the ghost's strange adoration for him and her apparent protectiveness toward his well-being. As for the last thing he told the council, he told them of her dream. Crack. Hokage-sama, with all due respect, we cannot let this woman revive herself. She's already so strong even as a soul. I'm afraid no human would be able to compete with her if she's to be fully revived. Came another voice from the Hyuga clan head. His voice was followed by the nods of several other clan heads. But Naruto can't help but notice that the man seemed so antsy for some reason. What happened? I agree. For the last several years, this ghost has been haunting this village, killing people indiscriminately and kidnapping women left and right. The only reason the other villages are yet to attack us is simply because they got the same problem in their hand. We have to take action against her. And soon. This time, the calm voice came from the head of the Nara clan, Shikaku Nara. Again, several people nodded along, agreeing with what the man just said. Murmurs also began to start, although every voice died down when the Hokage raised his right hand. I see. For a minute or so, the Hokage used his hand to comb his whitish goatee, and once he did, his eyes immediately went to Naruto. The council, seemingly realizing what the Hokage wanted, also turned their attention toward Naruto. Some with glee, some with distrust, and some with silent hope. My boy, are you 100% that the ghost won't harm you? Why yes, I'm pretty sure she won't hurt me. Slightly uncomfortable when the usually cold Hayashi gave him such a hopeful look behind his cold facade, Naruto said these words. And it was here, the Hokage across from him gave him a proud smile. Good. Then Genin Naruto Uzumaki, I'll give you an S-rank mission. Enter the ghost gate in front of the Forest of Death and save all women inside, including the heiress of Hyuga and Yamanaka clan, Hinata Hyuga and Ino Yamanaka. I expect you to enter the gate a few hours from now. Don't disappoint me. Wait, what? Hinata and Ino? His newest teammates, the girl who kept blushing every time he was near. That Hinata? And the girl who kept talking about Sasuke? That Ino? Any fear, any anxiousness, and any doubt disappeared from Naruto's eyes the moment he heard that single fact. In his eyes, the light of conviction can be seen. He's going to save them both. Sir, yes sir. For now, he's going to get some supply he'd need in this first mission of his. Srank. Here he comes. Flashback. As the earthquake stopped in its track, one Hinata Hyuga stood from her sitting position. In her eyes, a hint of conviction can be seen. Behind her, large gate seemingly made of fleshes pulsed powerfully every few seconds, just like a vein connected to one huge, beating heart. Are you ready now, descendant? Answering the question given by her ancestor, Hinata nodded. Even from the outside of the gate, Hinata could feel it when some stray, leaking out chakra entered her system, trying to give her body more power than it already has. The moment she, someone blessed by Kaguya, enters that gate, large power will be hers. Power and chakra taken by thousands of women, that's it. But she won't be bothered by the details. After all, power is power. And she will use that power to protect her Naruto-kun. To stay by his side forever. Kaguya-sama, may I have a request for Ino to be taken into one of your gates? Hinata said darkly after a few seconds of thinking. She still remembered it vividly when her moment with her dearest got interrupted by that stupid girl. And honestly, it was so vexing that the word, anger alone was not enough to explain the bubbling feeling in her chest. Livid. That's what she's feeling at the moment. And she wants Ino to pay for her transgression against her. From the depth of her karma seal, Kaguya laughed. Yufufu, of course, descendant. It seems you have become more mature and begun to know that a slight against us is by no means a forgivable deed. With her connection, Hinata felt it as a creature came out from another gate and dashed toward Konoha at almost unbelievable speed. Knowing there will be no more Ino once the night ended, Hinata let out a soft, almost innocent smile at nothing. And once she did, she turned around and walked toward the flesh-like gate. Sensing her presence, the gate pulsed with such powerful energy for a quick second. And just like that, Hinata disappears. The day she came out, her father and her clan elders will regret their slight against her through all these years. Believe it. Time skip. How long has it been? 4 years? 5 years? Inside a rather small room made of brown concrete and bricks, Hinata fell to her butts and let herself rest for a few minutes until the dungeon refill her energy. And just like that, a few minutes later Hinata stood as if she wasn't tired in the first place. Although, this time, she didn't continue her training and merely walked to the edge of the room, where a simple bed made of several hundred pieces of clothing can be seen. And the first thing she took notice of was herself in the mirror. 5 years after her coming to this place, not only her power, but her body also has grown. Almost as tall as Kaguya herself, Hinata stood at 2 meters with a body that could make any woman jealous and any man droll in desire. Her breasts, tied so tightly by bandages, were actually H-cup had she let it out. But she didn't, simply because their sway always made her lose focus when she was training. Plus, no bra could cover them. She probably had to custom-made it once she come out from the dungeon she was in. Anyway, she's no longer a little girl, but a young woman who's waiting for her Prince Charming to come to save her. Girl, he's coming. Just as she was sighing and wishing for her dearest to come, the voice of her ancestor rang inside her mind, and the words spoken were enough to wipe away her sadness and change the expression on her face into a smile full of happiness. At last. But it was only when a magic circle appeared on the ground a few meters away from her that Hinata realized that she was actually half nude. With panic in her system, Hinata began to search for any clothes that could be of some use to cover her sexy body. It'd be so embarrassing if the first time Naruto saw her mature body is when she was nude, after all. With Naruto. Pant. Pant. The moment Naruto entered the gate, he felt lightless, just like when he met the ghost inside his dream. The feeling was then followed by another feeling of gravity pulling him downward as hundreds of colors passed his sight, which forced him to shut his eyes as tight as possible. A minute or so later, Naruto fell to his knees and began to pant. All around him, he cannot see anything but brown concrete and bricks. The site was like some kind of ruin. Underground ruin, that is, considering the ceiling was covered with dirt and the fact the air in the place seemed to be so thin that it was rather hard for him to breathe. "And Naruto-kun? Is that you?" Just as he was complicating his whereabouts, Naruto heard a somewhat familiar voice, but more mature. It was only when he turned his head to the right that he saw her. Hinata. But at the same time, she didn't look like to be Hinata that he knew. Still, just to make sure. Hinata? And Naruto-kun. Fear, hope, and happiness came out of the young woman's lips as she ran to him and gave him a rather tight hug. For a few seconds, Naruto had the urge to struggle and push the woman away, but when she began to sob on top of his head while her arms that constricted him trembled, he disregarded this urge and merely let her cast away all of her sadness. All the while, his hands patting her back somewhat awkwardly. Hug was not something he accepted frequently, unfortunately. And thus, Naruto sat there, feeling awkward because he has no experience comforting someone. At the same time, a blush began to creep into his cheeks as Hinata's bandage-clad breasts pushed themselves against his face so hard. There was something hard and chewy forcing itself into his mouth too, but Naruto ignored his mind that screamed "nipple" at him and did not do anything to the thing in question. Fortunately for him, a few minutes later, Hinata stopped her cries and broke their hug with red painting her cheeks. He was no different, of course. "Hinata, are you okay?" Standing as calmly as possible, Naruto tried to cover his shyness by patting some dust on his clothes. All the while, his eyes went toward Hinata, who for some reason became so big that she was almost as big as the ghost haunting him. Hell, Hinata was still kneeling on her knees and she was at the same level as his neck. The ghost? That woman towered over him even when she was kneeling down on her knees. "Why yes, I'm fine, Naruto-kun. But you don't change that much even after all these years." "Years?" Startled, Naruto's eyes widened. More so when he sensed no lie from the words Hinata said just now. The woman in question looked at him as if he had a second head on his shoulder. "Of course. It's been 5 years since I was kidnapped. I thought no one would save me. I am so happy that you came for me, Naruto-kun." Shyness and honesty were obvious on Hinata's face. And when he saw this, Naruto can't help but nod. He didn't dare to say to her that it was only a day past in the real world. He didn't want to hurt her. "Why yeah, I'm here now. So, you have been staying here since you got kidnapped." In a move that is definitely Hinata, the towering woman began to shyly play with her index fingers. On her cheeks, a hint of blush can be seen. She didn't change much even after the 5 years she spent here, it seems, getting redder for each second passed. "Yes, and Naruto-kun. Although, I met with someone calling herself Kaguya the first day I came. She said I could escape this place if I passed the trial of scent. But I didn't dare to pass that door because I remembered no women, civilian or jonin, ever escaped from this place. So, I waited for someone to come and save me." Okay, that was a lot of information. But first, Kaguya? Yes. She said she's the progenitor of chakra and the mother of Sage of Six Paths. She has white hair and a pair of Byakugan in her eye sockets. From what I heard, it seems she kidnapped women and killed men so she could take their chakra. As for her objective, she wants to revive herself. Okay, that's definitely the appearance of the ghost haunting him all these years. It helped that the woman Hinata spoke to also had the same goal as the ghost he met just a day ago. But the progenitor of chakra? The mother of the fucking Sage of Six Paths? Shit. This is definitely above his pay grade. S-grade or not. I see. Did she said, why she want to revive herself? Because she is my ancestor, Kaguya-sama didn't seem to care whether I passed that door or not. As for your question, she answered the same question from mine about 2 years ago. She said, and I quote, "Humans killed my husband even though all he wanted was a peaceful world. Now that he reincarnated, I'll revive myself and take all my chakra that my son so foolishly spread across this world." Ha! With Ninshu, chakra can be used to connect each other. What a fool. I told him humans will always find a way to weaponize anything they could use. And it seems I was right. My son's so-called ninshu is nothing but extinct now. And now, ninjutsu took over the world. Once I have all of my chakra, I'll reset this world and erase all humans on it. That's what she said to me, Naruto-kun. Once Naruto fully digested Hinata's words, he let out a small, shaky breath. The difficulty seemed to get higher and higher. So much that he actually began to regret coming to this place, if he can be honest. I understand the current situation now. Thank you, Hinata. It was a great help. Kaguya was the mother of the Sage of Six Paths and the rightful owner of all chakra in the world. And now that her husband reincarnated into a new life, she decided that humans have gone too far with her gift and no longer will forgive them for their transgression, nor she will let them continue to have chakra. Her chakra. Oh, of course, Naruto-kun. Please just ask me anything if there's something you want to know. For a few seconds, Naruto kept his silence. But once said seconds passed, he nodded to himself and turned his attention to the door 20 or so meters away from his and Hinata's position. Two more, I guess. What happened to other kidnapped women? Also, what kind of test we must pass for Kaguya to let us out? Now that he knows just who's the ghost haunting him for all these years, Naruto decided to follow the rule Kaguya placed. Considering to fight against the progenitor of chakra herself sounded like a fool's plan to his ears. He also just wants to meet her face to face. If he really is the reincarnation of Kaguya's husband, he should be able to make her see reason. I'll answer that, but can you be honest with me first, Naruto-kun? Outside, the time passed differently, right? For a bit, Naruto was startled. But when he saw a no-nonsense expression on Hinata's face, he was forced to nod. She must have seen his expression when he realized that she was Hinata and not someone else who looked like her. Not going to lie, but Hinata has become much sharper now that she's an adult. More beautiful too, but he won't say that out loud. Thank you. Considering how important I am to the Hyuga clan, I'll take conclusion that you are sent a day after my disappearance, which mean a day outside equal to 5 years in this place. Okay. She is not just sharper, but also much, much smarter than Hinata, whom he knew just yesterday. Before he could say whether her statement was true or not, Hinata gave him a small smile full of acceptance. All right, I'll answer your questions now, Naruto-kun. As the woman in front of him didn't seem to want to talk about the 5 years she wasted in such a broken place, Naruto relented and gave a small nod toward her. She probably needs some time to digest that small yet big truth. First, I'll answer your second question because the first question will come after. Here, Naruto nodded, waiting for the girl to continue her words. This dungeon is a branch of bigger dungeon called Mage's Dungeon. There are several more branches just like this dungeon, but this dungeon we're in hold a test called Scent Test for the people who want to escape. And just as the name suggests, you have to endure something scent-based traps before you could get the pass to escape. Scent. That didn't sound so hard. It was here, Naruto saw Hinata's face explode with a familiar redness once again. Why yes, I forgot to say this, but let me explain it a little. Long before Kaguya-sama got sealed, she had this title, the Rabbit Goddess. As for the reason, it because each night, she would pull her husband to their chamber and have sex with him till the dawn came. Oh! Blush began to creep on Naruto's own face as he began to imagine the gorgeous ghost woman he met a day ago pulling him into a bedroom where she would do illicit things to him again and again till the dawn came. Shit. Stupid hormone. Anyway, after her husband passed away, Kaguya-sama's libido was not something she could handle, and the thought of having a new husband disgusted her greatly, and thus, she'd kidnap women and rape them until her libido satisfied. And even till today, Kaguya-sama never touched any man except her husband. That's why the way she takes chakra from humans are different. She killed men by pulling out their soul from their body. As for women, she kidnapped them so her avatars could rape them for hundreds of years. Okay, a plus for her loyalty to her husband. But rape. Men on women, women on women, to Naruto, rape was a sickening activity that he'd never accept no matter what. It was here, Hinata nodded shyly. Her Byakugan activated as she began to observe the door that they need to pass if they want to escape the dungeon. Why yes, Kaguya-sama also isn't happy about it, but she didn't have any other choice. She also said it would be better if the women died feeling pleasure instead of pain as she rips out their chakra. For a small second, Naruto wanted to refute such a statement. But considering he had no time for an argument, he merely kept his mouth shut and waited for Hinata to continue her explanation. She has been trapped in this place for 5 whole years. He shouldn't make it longer than that. Now that I explained that, let me tell you about scent test. Here, Hinata stared at the door that would be their escape route, seemingly going through the route in question and trying to summarize the scent test for him. Once you open that door, you'll no longer be allowed to step into this place, the safe zone. Outside, there will be several creatures called avatars that will grab you and give you pleasure. You have to make sure none of them grab you. If they did, they will make you submit by making you ejaculate. For women, they could stand even after 5 ejaculations, but for a male like you, 2 times would be the maximum if I remember it right. Once you ejaculated 2 times, you will not be able to let out any more liquid and strength will leave your body. By the time Hinata finished her explanation, her face already became so red that tomatoes would become envious of her. Of course, Naruto was no different. For women who got captured, they will be raped endlessly to supply chakra and vitality for Kaguya-sama. You probably will see some of them stuck in the wall or something like that, but most of them actually trapped in the ground under us, raped by the avatars until they can no longer give out any vitality. Here, Naruto let out a somewhat shaky breath. Okay. Hinata didn't tell him the appearance of those avatars, but he shivered when he imagined a very ugly creature raping a young woman endlessly. And he shivered even more when his mind changed the raped woman into him. Fucking mind. Are they all right? I don't think so, Naruto-kun. From what I can see, all of their minds have become vegetable. All they could think is to receive pleasure. For a small second, Naruto saw a hint of disgust cross Hinata's eyes, but after he blinked, the expression disappeared and changed into an upset expression. Thus, he chalked it to his imagination. Hinata was a kind and gentle soul. It would be impossible for her to feel disgusted at the raped women. Say, Hinata, am I going to be all right if I stepped outside that door? For a few seconds, Hinata stared at him with a strange expression on her face. But not long after, she gave him a very kind and gentle smile. Naruto-kun, you don't need to say anything about it. The fact you're able to enter this place in one piece alone mean you're the husband Kaguya-sama has been waiting for. The few times she came here, I already concluded that she is deeply in love with you. I don't think she will let her avatars kill you. As for rape, I think she will let them do that to you, but will save you before your mind could break. After all, Kaguya-sama made her avatars with her own will. They're literally the extension of her own body, and she definitely will let them get a taste of you. That did not help at all. Geez, just how sharp Hinata has become. Honestly? She concluded so many things without any wrong thus far, and it honestly began to make him self-conscious. But then again, she's 5 years older than him now. Oh wait, if he included his past life, would he be much older than Hinata? A food for later thought. For now, he has to get out of this suffocating place. The air here's just so thin and making it hard for him to breathe. Thank you very much. Chapter 5. The Test of Scent, Part 1 Lime. Start. Naruto woke up gasping for air and was forced to smell the scent of Hinata's mature and musky simply because he was lying on her bed, one she had been using for 5 years. The bed was made with all captured women's attires and already got soaked by Hinata's scent through all these years that no matter how she washed it, her scent would never completely disappear from them. Well, you got the gist of it. Naruto-kun, how are you feeling, better? A few meters away from him, Hinata was training her kata. Sweat covered her whole body and got soaked into the clothes she was wearing. And with how small the room is, it was so easy for Naruto to get the full brunt of Hinata's fresh, mature scent. And it made him gain a small erection in no time. Why yeah, my head's a little bit clearer now. I should be able to start clearing this dungeon now. Entering the gate took a lot of his energy for some reason. And thus, Naruto asked Hinata to let him sleep for a few hours. Of course, he merely asked her permission to sleep at the other edge of the room. But Hinata refused vehemently and told him to sleep on her bed because it was not healthy for him to sleep on a cold floor. He tried to argue, of course. But Hinata was taller and stronger. And thus, albeit she looked somewhat embarrassed, the young woman had grabbed him and forced him to lay on her bed, uncaring of his argument. She even threatened him a little. Naruto-kun, please. It might not be much, but my bed should be soft enough that you'll feel refreshed once you wake up. If you still try to argue, I'll sit on your body until you're asleep. And thus, Naruto shut his trap with a very red face. If Hinata sat on his body, he's afraid sleep would be the last thing that crossed his mind. And not only that, she might hate and call him a pervert if she did. A male's body is very honest, after all. That's good. Kindly, Hinata smiled at him as Naruto sat and stretched his hands just like how a feline would. And then he stood. In his eyes, a seriousness like no other can be seen. Hinata, are you sure you don't want to go with me? Here, the young woman merely shook her head, still smiling with that kind smile of hers. And her answer was not something Naruto could argue with if he can be honest with himself. You're Kaguya-sama's husband. You probably will respawn to this place if you lose. But such fate won't be possible for me. I'm sorry, Naruto-kun, but I have to ask you to survey the area and defeat all avatars if you want me to follow you. Somewhat stiffly, Naruto cannot do anything but nod. Would he actually get returned to this place by Kaguya if he got captured and raped by her avatars? It was not something he or Hinata could answer. Nonetheless, as the woman's reincarnated husband, he was the one who got the most chance at keeping his life if he got raped. Hinata? She'd become another cow for Kaguya to milk the very second her avatars captured her. Nope, Naruto was not going to fault Hinata for being scared. It's all right. I came here to save you, after all. Let me handle it. Despite his smile being a little bit shaky, Naruto was still trying his best to reassure Hinata that he'll get them both out of this dungeon they were in. Hinata's answer was a soft titter hidden behind her palm. I trust you, Naruto-kun. I always do. Nodding, Naruto let out a small sigh after he walked to the door between the safe area and the test area. His right hand was on the doorknob while his left hand was on the handle of the short sword Hinata gave him before he slept. This is it. Today, he was going to face his greatest fear head-on. Ghost. The avatars of a ghost, which probably would be ghosts too. Narrowing his eyes, Naruto steeled his nerve and gave the door the cutest glare he could muster. Kaguya, I'm not going to be scared of you anymore. And thus, with a yell, Naruto opened the door and ran through it with a sword in his hands. Click. And the door behind him closed automatically just like that, rejecting the notion of Naruto running away from his so-called greatest fear. So cute. On her feet, Hinata let out a small smile, ignoring the feeling of chakra gathering behind her. She knew who it was. So true. He was so scared that he didn't even ask you about my avatar's appearance and their skills. Alas, the first round's going to be my win. Amused, the rabbit goddess spoke those words behind Hinata. On her lips, a telltale of a smile just like the one on her vessel's face. What do you mean by, alas, Kaguya-sama? You're anticipating it. Sharing a body, Hinata could definitely feel it when her body began to get hot and bothered. And because Naruto was no longer in the same room as hers, she was quick to lay her body on her bedding, inhaling the scent of her dearest among the thicker scent of hers. In her eyes, a pair of pink hearts could be seen when she caught a whiff of his scent. MNHHP. Grabbing the clothes which hold Naruto's thickest scent, Hinata shoved said piece of fabric onto her own face and ejaculated. But it was not enough. Her tongue lolled out as Hinata began to lick and kiss the piece of fabric in her hands just like a degenerate. Through all of this, Kaguya already activated her Byakugan so she could see her husband and was currently waiting for his loss with anticipation in her heart. Husband. Of course, on her face, an expression like that of a gentle and loving wife can be seen. After all, that's what she was. A gentle wife who loved her dearest husband very much. With Naruto. Okay. Thus far, nothing. After a few minutes of running, Naruto did not see anything amiss and stopped his run. The air was very thin in this place, so it would be better if he did not waste his breath and stamina by running. Plus, he would need both to face Kagaya's avatars. After all, they felled women genin to jonin without any failure. He'd need his everything to face them. Just as he thought like this, Naruto saw another door and carefully opened the door, then peered his face inside. Another small room. Yeah, just like the room where he met Hinata, this new room was also small, although a little bit smaller than the safe area room. And in the middle of this room, a glowing circle can be seen on the ground. Chakra, he concluded. Kneeling down on one knee, Naruto began to read the kanji around the circle and realized that the circle would take him somewhere else if he stepped on it. But considering there was no other door except the one behind him, which would lead him to the previous room dash, Naruto nodded to himself. This must be the circle which will take me to another level of this dungeon. Just like the RPG game he played with Choji a few years back, probably. Here goes nothing. Carefully, Naruto held his short sword with his right hand and touched the edge of the circle with his left hand. And just like that, the circle glowed very brightly for a few seconds and teleported him to another area. When Naruto opened his eyes, he was already inside another small room. A different one too, considering the tiers around the room were very different than the one he saw prior to him opening his eyes. It didn't help that he saw a nude woman a few meters away from his position. She was lying on her stomach with her butt in the air, and from her womanhood, her womanly juice kept shooting and making the puddle under her, making it larger and larger with each ejaculation. Hey, are you all right? Ignoring the woman's very lewd state, Naruto circled the woman to see her face, and once he did, he flinched. Her eyes were no longer focused, a very red blush tainted her cheeks, and her tongue lolled out and leaked droll to the floor. The woman didn't seem to care that she was literally tasting her own cum. She didn't even seem to realize or care that he was right in front of him. Her silence made Naruto throw his face away, at the very least, to save the woman some dignity she had left. I will save you, I promise. With sword in hand, Naruto turned his body around and ignored the woman who kept ejaculating despite there was nothing external that could give her pleasure. Why? Naruto was not able to answer that question as he merely kept going into the next room. And when he did, Naruto saw another woman, and this one seemed to hold more sanity than the last one he saw. Well, not really. I'm going to come again. I just can't stop ejaculating. Just like the other woman, this one already made such a big puddle under her. However, this one seemed to consent to dig her own womanhood with her fingers. In her eyes, a pair of hearts that he usually saw in hentai films could be seen for some reason. Alas, Naruto was too deeply immersed in his staring that he didn't realize the woman already stood and began to glare at him with wanton and desire in her eyes. Dick! Fortunately, the woman's scream was loud enough to break Naruto from his thought as he quickly dodged the woman who pounced at him like a rabid beast. Fully knowing her intention and what she'd do to him the moment she caught him, Naruto grabbed his sword tighter and used the back of it to smash the back of the woman's head until she fell unconscious before she could charge at him again. On his face, a blank expression can be seen after he did this. I'm sorry, but I don't want to catch AIDS. Turning his head to the side, Naruto saw some women who were also fully immersed in lewd actions despite there being no external trigger. And such sight began to make him paranoid. Is there some kind of unseen ghosts raping those women? His mind can't help but ask. And thus Naruto walked forward once again, this time with a small hint of trepidation in each of his movements. It was this trepidation that made him lose sight of the floor he stepped on. Click. Wah. And just like that, Naruto was hit by very pink gases which were shot powerfully from the ground under him, the walls beside him, and the ceiling above him. Did not waste any time, Naruto took a step backward. It was just 2 seconds or so, but Naruto felt the effect almost immediately. His sight became blurry. His knees felt like some kind of jellies, and the most apparent effect would be his penis, which stood rigidly like a rock under his pants. So rigid that he immediately threw away his pants, knowing his penis might get some wounds had he still worn the leather pants. Gah, too much. That thing's too potent. These gases must be the reason for the women's state. Breathing heavily, Naruto tried his best to resist his urge to touch his own penis. For a small second, his hand actually went downward, but before he could touch his member, Naruto clenched his fist so hard that it bled. Fortunately, the pain was more than enough for him to break himself from the lustful haze. And immediately he fell to his butt, panting very roughly with a very red blush on his cheeks. On his waist, covered with nothing but a pair of underwear, his tent twitched and let out a small amount of pre-cum. His eyes, however, glared at the small button that he had the pleasure to step on. And as the haze in his vision began to get less and less, he realized that there were actually a few hundred buttons across the floor and walls. The button's color was slightly browner than the flooring, which made him miss one of them in the first place. You won't fool me again, stupid. Since some women were sitting and fucking themselves silly with their fingers in the direction he was going, Naruto went into a running position. It'd be easy for him to dodge the small buttons, but dodging them while lustful women charged at him left and right? He'd definitely fail. And it was with this thought that Naruto began to run across the ruin, dodging the buttons that could shoot very potent aphrodisiac gases while making sure he was fast enough that no women could notice his presence. Fortunately, with their state, it was somewhat easy for him to do the latter. This is cheating. Stood 100 or so meters away from the next door, Naruto bit his bottom lips when he saw thousands of buttons on the flooring in front of him, leaving no area for him to step on whatsoever. Not only that, but there were also some broken rocks between him and the door. Deciding to play it smart, Naruto took a nearby small rock and threw it toward the floor in front of him. Click. Sssttttt. And just as he thought, pink gases were quick to cover the whole area in front of him. So thick that the alley can't be seen anymore, and when he saw this, Naruto can't help but widen his eyes in a small amount of fear. Can humans accept that kind of dosage into their bodies and retain their sanity? 2. I'll get only 2 seconds of delay until the gases come out. Geez, no wonder even jonins were hard-pressed to escape from this place. To run across 100 meters within 2 seconds while destroying the rocks between them would definitely not be something a human could easily do, jonin or not. What should he do? Naruto stood there, waiting and thinking about what he'd do to face the problem in front of him. Nope, he didn't get any plan. Well, he actually did, but it was a crazy idea. One he'd rather not do. Gar. This is stupid. Stomping his feet angrily for a few seconds, Naruto decided to follow up on his stupid plan simply because he cannot find any more idea on how to charge across the trap area except for the one he was thinking about even after a few more minutes of thinking. Thus, with a shaky breath, Naruto went into a running position once again. And here he inhaled as much air as he could. Inhale. Dash. Like the ninja he was, Naruto charged toward the area while holding his breath. His eyes never left his target, which was the door 100 meters away from his previous position. Click. Click. Sssttttt. 40 meters. Naruto narrowed his eyes as the pink gases began to encompass his sight, rendering him cannot see anything in front of him. Jerk. Naruto jumped when he saw a large boulder in front of him right before he could kiss it with his face. Although, the suddenness of his movement made his fall rather unstable, and sprained his toe. Not really painful, but still enough to make him inhale some pink gases that made his body feel hot and bothered. 20 more meters. With a glare on his face, Naruto dodged several rocks in front of him before he could crash into any of them. And when he saw the 5th rock, he cocked his fist backward. And then he punched it. Crash. Naruto punched the rock so hard that he stumbled a little. Fortunately, right behind said rock he destroyed, he felt it. A door. And he wasted no time to open it. Gasp. That's fucking bullshit. Naruto immediately yelled after the door behind him fully closed and no gases came out from its edge. And he lay there, panting for clean air and a need for ejaculation because he did inhale some gas just now. Again, he ignored his sexual need with a much heavier heart. Oh God. This is so embarrassing. Naruto tried to stand, but once he did, his legs buckled under him when a jolt of pleasure hit his whole body, simply because of the feeling of his underwear pressing against his member. Just like he said before. So embarrassing. GUH, I hope that's the end of this stupid test. Leaning the whole weight of his body against the wall, Naruto muttered those words hopefully. But he knew full well that it was nothing but a pipe dream. After all, if a genin like him could bypass that trap with some gut, surely most jonin could do it easily. Small room and open door. Naruto said to himself when he looked forward, and immediately he was feeling suspicious about these. And thus, he shook his head, trying hard to read the glowing kanjis beside the open door despite the blurriness of his eyesight. Unknown to him, he was too deep in a pink haze to realize that his body was already a mess. 2 times he inhaled the potent aphrodisiac, and Naruto was already at the edge of losing his mind in pleasure. Because his eyesight was still blurry, despite he already got closer and closer, the boy in the end braved himself and got so close to the wall that he could read the kanji on it. It was when he fully read the words that Naruto knew he was fucked up. You must come here to pass. Thump. Like a guillotine, the door fell, closing it before Naruto could dash inside. On the lower part of the door, a rather large sex toy in the shape of a very realistic pair of butts can be seen, complete with an awaiting mouth of womanhood drenched with clear juice. And on top of this, another realistic-looking pair of sex toys in the shape of large breasts can be seen, clad in a shiny blue latex with a slit above and under the cleavage. And for some reason, both toys were moving, as if breathing. SSSSSTTTT. Naruto did not get any time to think about this strangeness because the sound he began to hate can be heard once again as the pink gases started to fill the room with its lewd scent. Schwof. Losing my mind. Kneeling on the floor, Naruto tried to block the gases by pinching his nose. However, when the gases in question did not stop coming in despite a minute have passed, Naruto began to take a few breaths. Pleasure exploded like a bomb from his chest once he did this. Oh! Naruto's whole body trembled from pleasure as a rope of thick, white cum came out over his underwear onto the floor. And yet, the pink gases did not stop and actually began to get much thicker. So thick that Naruto had to take off his underwear unless he wanted to come from the feeling of wet fabric clinging to his member alone. And yet, the soft caress of wind was enough to make him pant like an animal in heat. The movement he did, no matter how small it is, was enough to make him whimper in pleasure. Most people would have lost themselves to pleasure by this point. But Naruto? He tried his best to stand. All the while, ignoring several small ejaculations his penis did every time it twitched. And then he stood. I won't lose to this kind of trap. Each step made him want to kneel and come. Each step made his whole body shiver in pleasure. And each step was not something any normal person could do, not in the state Naruto was currently in. Minutes? Hours? Naruto didn't know how long he dragged his feet, not with his sight filled with nothing but pink. But when he thought all hope was lost, his body crashed into them. The 2 sex toys stuck on the door. Umph! Had Naruto still retained some semblance of intelligence in his mind, he'd definitely realize how his penis immediately got swallowed by the lower sex toy, shaped like a woman's bottom, the moment he crashed into it. It was as if his height had been calculated by the person who made the trap. Alas, the moment his body met with the sex toys, the zip of latex covering the huge breasts went down, freeing both large flesh from their container. The breasts in question, as if alive, got bigger and swallowed Naruto's upper body without any difficulty, followed by the latex zipping itself once again, although this time behind Naruto, trapping him without any chance to escape. Trapped, Naruto cannot do anything but let out a muffled moan. MNNPH. As if his voice was some kind of signal, the toys trapping him began to move. The breasts began to cradle him, up and down, left and right. Each movement was like a mother who was embracing her own child, full of nothing but gentleness. In contrast, The sex toy shaped like a woman's bottom didn't seem to know the meaning of slow. Smack, 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 smack. Like a piston, the sex toy moved forward and backward so fast that normally, Naruto would feel nothing but pain and immediately struggle. But with how much aphrodisiac he inhaled, even the smallest movement would equal pleasure for him. Still, pleasure was not something he had experienced before, and right now, his body was too much sensitive and receiving too much pleasure that Naruto began to mule and struggle inside the confinement of his heavenly soft prison. Unfortunately for him, the breasts covering him from head to waist were too soft and slippery that no matter how hard he tried, he simply cannot grab a hold of them. Weren't happy with his failure, Naruto tried to bite his cage, but just as his mouth opened, he only got a fistful of soft flesh slipped into his mouth for the answer. His 2 attempts, however, merely got him an annoyance from the upper sex toy. Seemingly didn't want to be gentle anymore. The blue latex covering the breasts began to get tighter and tighter, and by the end of it, Naruto was not able to move anything, even his own finger. Sensing this, the lower sex toy began to move even much faster than before. So fast that Naruto's eyes immediately lolled to the back of his head as he let out several ropes of white cum. Burt. Burt. Thud. Thus, with the requirement fulfilled, the 2 sex toys released Naruto from their grasp and let him fall to the ground with a soft noise after they made sure no cum was left unabsorbed from the boy's ejaculation. For half an hour, Naruto lay there, unfocused as the lingering feeling of pleasure still hovered in the depth of his mind even after the pink gases retreated back to wherever they came from. Pant. Pant. Breath-ragging, Naruto tried to move his body, only to fail when he felt no energy whatsoever inside his body. 2 times of coming and noted. Naruto muttered to himself after he slung his arm across his eyes. Just like what Hinata said, huh? Is this how it's always going to be? For a few seconds, tears gathered in Naruto's eyes as he let out small, choked sobs. He didn't know why he cried, but when the memory of his experience with the breasts and butt sex toys resurfaced, Naruto can't help but to hold back a choked sob. He was so afraid. He felt so powerless. Hinata theorized that Kaguya won't hurt him, that she won't kill him, but can he really believe that? A theory, after all, is not something he could trust just like that. Sex is an activity done by 2 people who love each other. Sometimes one would take charge while the other one let her partner take charge. But for someone to let their other half take charge, one thing was needed. Trust. And right now, he simply cannot trust Kaguya for not hurting him, no matter what she said about him being the reincarnation of her husband and whatnot. Without trust, it was not a surprise that Naruto was afraid. I have to keep going. Despite the fear in his heart, Naruto decided to stand after he spent another half an hour laying on his back on the floor. He was yet to feel energized, but staying in the same place is not the answer. To get out of the dungeon, he had to keep going forward. Naruto let out a small sigh once he fully stood. Fortunately, the door trap did not respawn even after 1 hour. Or maybe it will? Did not want to take any chance. Naruto entered the open door before it could startle him again. After all, better safe than sorry. Thump. Thus, Naruto reached the next room and the door behind him closed automatically. The room was long and somewhat narrow, just like an alley or something like that, and lined on the left and right side of the wall, several women could be seen, captured by breasts and butt sex toys. But unlike the trap which captured him, the sex toys captured those women did not move. The lewd, smacking sound ringing across the narrow room was the byproduct of the women in question humping against the sex toys with crazed looks on their faces. Naruto decided to ignore them and walk forward with carefulness. Hinata already said it to him, those women's minds were already broken. Saving any of them would be like saving a hungry lion from its cage. He'd get eaten long before the lion said its thanks. It didn't take long for Naruto to reach the middle room, where the area became a little bit wider in the circle shape. Like some kind of arena. Is this the boss's room? No, if this dungeon he was in using the same system as an RPG game, then this place should be a mid-boss room. Here, Naruto's eyes trembled. Can he really face the mid-boss in his current state? Aria, are you a new slave? Just as Naruto thought like this, a blue hologram of a very lewd woman appeared in the middle of the arena. She was floating. No, flying would be more accurate. Thick, pink leathery wings came out of the woman's lower back, flapping again and again. The woman in question was a little plump, large breasts, large butts, and some hint of fat on her face and stomach. As for her attire, pink nylon gloves and socks covered her limbs, with white furs covering the edges of said fabrics. Her body was covered by a rather tight-looking suit that covered only the most part of her cleavage and her groin area, and just like the others, white fur crossed over her chest vertically. The last piece of fabric would be on her head, covering her left ram-like horn while the right side did not use any. Wait, horns? Just as Naruto wanted to take hold of his sword strapped to his waist, his hand met nothing but air. It must have fallen in the room where he had to charge thousands of booby traps. Oh wait, that feminine husband. To think you'd visit me first. The woman opened her mouth and grinned once she realized who he was. In her mouth, there was no hint of normal teeth. Each tooth was like a blade, sharp and pointed. Who are you? Knowing it would be a hard battle with his state, Naruto decided to talk it out. And the woman seemed to think of him as husband too. He really wanted to know why would she think of him like that despite the woman in front of him was definitely not Kaguya. I'm Mary. A few hundred years ago, Kaguya-sama was missing you dearly, and in her sleep, she dreamed of having you trapped inside her clothing, sniffing her body odor. Thus I popped out. Kaguya could create a creature just by dreaming now? If he didn't believe the woman was the mother of the Sage of Six Paths, he definitely does now. So, you're a creature made by her dream? Yep, but if you want the simple gist of it, I am one of Kaguya-sama Kink's given form. Kink, given form. Kaguya dreamed of him trapped inside her clothing, sniffing her body odor. And the creature that came out from that single dream was a creature who ruled over a dungeon where the traps were based on odor. He could even take the conclusion that the pink gases were actually something that came out of Mary and not something made chemically. Husband, do you wish to escape from this place? Naruto was definitely startled when Mary's voice suddenly came from his back. Fortunately for him, despite their close proximity, she didn't seem to have any desire to attack him. Actually, he could even see a hint of fondness and longing in her eyes. She was upset because he wanted to escape. I want to save my friend and the women trapped here. This dungeon, it's wrong. For a flame to keep going, something has to be burned constantly. Husband, do you even understand the implication of what you wish for? For a bit, Naruto was confused about Mary's sudden exclamation. But despite the strangeness of it, Naruto still nodded with nothing but conviction in his eyes. Yes. Can you help me, Mary? Kaihaha, of course, husband. However, the rule has to come first above all else. You must meet my real body at the end of this dungeon and win. Only after that I'll be able to help you. Right after Mary said those words, her grin became a little bit unnerving for Naruto. He got his answer when Mary's projection disappeared and the arena got blocked by pink gases with him still in the middle of it. Across the room, Naruto heard it. Before you can enter the next room, you have to defeat the avatars of mine. Taku and I hope you enjoy the experience. The former blonde gulped down in fear as he went into a basic kata, waiting for the avatars that were going to come. Clack. On the ceiling, a small door opened, and from it, several pairs of black, silken gloves fell to the floor, unmoving. Where are the avatars? Naruto asked himself as he slowly walked to the small pile of black gloves. Mary? When he stood near the pile and nothing happened, Naruto relaxed his guard and called the disappeared woman's name. Of course, he also started to look around his surrounding, ignoring the pile of fabrics behind him. A wrong thing to do. Lime warning. Tags. Handjob, living clothes, hand gag, scent smother. Naruto got the shock of his life when suddenly, something soft grabbed him forcefully by the arms and lifted him onto the air. It was only then he realized the gloves he ignored began to float and were circling him like some kind of wolf pack. Kaya ha ha ha, you lost. Husband, go on. Shoot, you come like the other slaves before you. Naruto didn't get any time to respond to Mary's words as a pair of gloves grabbed him by the legs rather tightly and forced them into a spreading, folded position. Hanging in the air, hands grabbed above his head and legs cannot move, Naruto tried to wiggle his butt, only to get nothing except his penis swaying left and right. Another wrong thing to do. Like a group of piranhas smelling blood, several silk gloves were quick to play with Naruto's male member. Each movement gave him a jolt of pleasure like no other. Don't touch it. It's still sensitive. Constricted, Naruto cannot do anything except let out a mewl and moan as the group of gloves began to play with his member with such professionality despite their numbers. Some became thin and wrapped around the shaft like a second skin. Another glove grabbed said shaft and stroked it with no gentleness whatsoever. A pair hovered above his penis and began to tickle its head. Another pair was playing with his balls, grabbing them and giving them some soft and pleasant squeezes, following the rhythm of other gloves. Still sensitive because the sex toys captured him an hour or so ago, it was not a surprise that Naruto became a panting mess in no time. But he didn't come. He simply can't. Help came in the shape of another pair of gloves. One went over his eyes and coiled around his head, taking away his vision, while the other one went over his mouth and nose, gagging and forcing him to smell Mary's scent on it. MG. Behind his blindfold, Naruto's eyes lolled to the back of his head the very second he smelled the scent of the glove. It was more potent than the pink gases. Twitch. Twitch. Still, empty was empty, and despite the pleasure he felt, Naruto's member did not shoot any cum and merely shoot air. The gloves, seemingly angry at this, began to move with more passion, all the while ignoring their praise weak, muffled plea to be released. 1, 2, 3. It was not only until his fifth time shooting air that Naruto in the end fell into the bliss of unconsciousness from overpleasure and tiredness. The gloves? They didn't stop. Not until they get what they wanted. Start. Naruto opened his eyes wryly, feeling so tired that he could sleep all day without any problem. Over his forehead, he felt something soft and fresh. Naruto-kun, are you all right? The soft, caring voice of Hinata hit Naruto's eardrums pleasantly. And when he turned his head, he saw Hinata sitting beside him with worry on her face. I guess. So, I really got respawned. Here, Naruto asked this question as he sat, ignoring the warm cloth that fell from his forehead when he did. Hinata was quick to take the cloth and wash it inside a small box filled with warm water. And only after she did this that Hinata decided to answer his question. Yes, however, the group of avatars that played with your body didn't let you respawn for a few hours. From their movement, it seems they were angry because you didn't shoot any liquid. They did release you once you let out a small amount of cum, though. Blankly, Naruto nodded to himself. But it was not until a few seconds later that Naruto blinked his eyes several times. On his face, a telltale of blush began to creep up as the feeling of embarrassment filled his heart. You saw it. Of course, and it's alright, Naruto-kun. Many fell against those avatars. Your lost was by no mean Ashaming. Gently and somewhat motherly, Hinata grabbed Naruto by the shoulders and pulled his face into her bosom, where one of her arms snaked around his waist while the other one began to comb his hair while shushing him gently. Still, with a blush on his face, Naruto nervously nodded. His hands shyly grabbed the hem of Hinata's shirt. He's honestly not used to affection or anything like this. It was not until a few minutes later that Hinata broke their hug. On her face, a kind smile still can be seen. You should rest a little bit more. In this dungeon, we don't need to eat or drink, but sleep is still essential. I'll observe the avatars and check whether I could memorize their movement. That should help you to defeat them. We don't need to eat or drink? That's strange. Naruto ignored the second part of Hinata's sentence because he was still embarrassed that his teammate actually saw him get played by living sex toys and living fabrics. Probably amused because she took notice of this, Hinata's smile twitched a little. But still, the woman nodded. Yes, the energy in the air let the humans inside this dungeon stay active without food or water. This also discarded the need to defecate. The energy inside the avatars, however, is much more potent. So potent that once you're captured, time itself will stop for you. I can only take a guess, but most women trapped here probably has been raped for more than 100 of years. That's why I think to save them is not something you should do. Nervously, Naruto nodded. Stopping humans' needs for food and water, okay. He could accept that no matter how strange it sounded. But to stop time itself? Once again, he got reminded just who is the creator of this dungeon. I see. Then I'll sleep now, Hinata. Please wake me up if any problem come. Lovingly, the woman nodded and pushed him into her bed. And ignoring his blushing face, Hinata took the large jacket she wore and blanketed him with it. Hina. SH. It's cold here. I'm sorry that it's a little bit smelly, but I hope it can warm you up. Did not want him to argue again. Hinata shushed him after she raised her jacket until it covered Naruto's mouth, tucking his much smaller body with her warmth. And immediately, his face bloomed with red, since he was forced to smell her scent. Nonetheless, the boy nodded and closed his eyes, hoping with all of his being that Hinata did not see the tent on his groin after she forced him to be tucked in with her jacket. She did. She just did not comment on it. Knowing her dearest crush wasn't able to sleep with her smell encompassing him, Hinata's hand went to his head and began to play with his hair. All the while, she was humming a tune that her mother used to sing for her long before her passing. And the effect was almost instant. Sleep well, Naruto-kun. Hinata muttered to herself when she saw Naruto's beating heart begin to calm down, a sign of him falling to sleep. On her face, a loving smile never disappears. Time skip. Gah! Failed again. It's been a week or so since Naruto arrived in the Loot Dungeon, and since his failure for the first time, he was yet able to defeat the avatars shaped like a group of floating gloves. Today marked his 5th failed attempt. Calm down, Naruto-kun. I told you already, the gloves avatars were made using fabrics as their main component. Fighting against them with bare hands won't let you win. Sat on Hinata's bedding, Naruto let out a small annoyed pout. He was no longer afraid of the creatures or traps inside the dungeon, now fully convinced that Kaguya won't let her will break his mind. She'll still let them suck him until he was at the edge of losing his mind, though. Sadistic wife of his former life, Naruto decided to call the woman like that inside his head. Not gonna call her like that outwardly, though. After all, who know just how many ears she has inside this dungeon? I know that, but we can't use chakra properly here. At most, I can only them to enhance my muscles. Naruto argued with his teammate, with the woman in question can only nod in agreement. The ancient chakra in the air disturbs any other chakra, and will not let anyone use any chakra-based technique outside their body. After all, had Naruto could use his chakra, he'd burn those gloves avatars to crisps by now already. He might not be a ninjutsu genius like Sasuke, but he also could use some fire jutsu if he wanted. True. And you didn't see your sword? Here, Naruto frowned a little. He lost his sword near the gas traps, and yet, he wasn't able to find it no matter hard he checked. Hell, he got trapped inside those gases because he took too long to find the sword in question. Lying on his stomach, but in the air, and his penis shooting come all over the floor. All the while, pink lewd gases kept coming into his face. So humiliating. Sorry, Hinata. Do you have any idea how I can face those floating gloves without a sword? For a minute, Hinata tapped her chin with a deep thought expression, and once said minute have passed, she nodded to herself. Do you remember our classmate, Kiba? I remember he could use his chakra to make his nails longer and sharper. You might be able to defeat those gloves with that. Widened his eyes, Naruto immediately nodded to himself and sat cross-legged. With her eyes, it was easy for Hinata to see that her dearest Naruto was trying his best to try to replicate Kiba's beast-like technique. Alas, with his bad chakra control, it might take him a few days to replicate the said technique. Oh well. Private time with her dearest was not something she would reject, even if the boy himself was not talking to her and merely sat there like a statue. To her, having him near her alone is a happiness given form. I did it! 2 days or so after Naruto meditated, he jumped to his feet and began to dance like a silly person. On his hands, his nails were longer and sharpened. And of course, Hinata let out a small smile when she saw his silly dance. So cute. Congratulations, Naruto-kun. Are you going to enter the test again? With a bright grin, Naruto nodded. Yes, I got well rested enough from 2 days of meditating. Please wait for the good news from me, Hinata. Seeing her Naruto so happy and proud after what he did, Hinata can't help but crack a smile. Really, no matter how many days and years passed, his smile is just too infectious. And because he's just so small and cute, Hinata unconsciously patted him on the head. Of course, ignoring his wide eyes and red face, Hinata decided to answer his words. Of course, Naruto-kun. I'll wait for your good news. Later. Pant. Pant. Is that all? The fight was by no means easy despite his new technique. Left panting and tired, Naruto's eyes scanned his surrounding with nothing but carefulness. He got fooled so many times since his arrival, it'd be a fool's errand if he lowered his guards after all that happened to him. But after a few minutes passed and no new avatars appear, Naruto lowered his guard just a little. The gases no longer block the exit. I should be able to go to the next room now. Naruto muttered to himself. Chakra no longer used to sharpen his nails. Naruto calmly walked to the door that was hidden behind pink gases prior to him defeating the glove's avatars. And after he opened the door and let it close itself behind him, Naruto's face was blank. Just like the previous room, the next room was also like an alley. Women trapped inside breasts and butt-shaped sex toys lined up on the left and right sides of the walls, moaning lewdly while humping their groin onto the soft and pillowy sex toy. Shit. Naruto cursed under his breath because just like the previous room, there was some kind of arena in the middle of the room. Must he defeat another group of avatars if he wanted to go forward? His body was too tired. Accepting his fate that he wouldn't be able to face against the next group of avatars, Naruto let out a small, shaky sigh as he channels his chakra into his nails once again. At the very least, he had to get some information about this new group of avatars. With an angry pout on his face and a blush creeping on his cheeks, Naruto walked to the middle of the arena boldly. Come out. I'm not scared of you. SSSSSTT. As if his voice was a signal for the fight, pink gases began to fill the room once again except for the arena, rendering Naruto cannot escape even if he wanted to. And once the arena fully closed, something came out from the opening on the ceiling. Boing. Boing. They were round and soft. But Naruto did not get closer, knowing it could be his game over for today's exploration. It was not until a few minutes passed and Naruto did not get closer that the soft things began to float just like the glove avatars. And once they did, Naruto's face exploded with red. Bee breasts? Yep. Clad in shiny black fabrics except for the heart-shaped opening on top of them, 6 pairs of breasts were floating. Each movement made them sway hypnotically. And of course, each blob of flesh was as big as a ripe watermelon, which make it impossible for a normal human to have such size. Naruto decided he don't want to lose if he can help it. Come here, you blob of softness. I dare you. Like a missile, one pair of breasts was quick to accept Naruto's taunt and hit him in the stomach, so hard that Naruto lost his breath for a quick second. He countered its move by clawing on the breasts in question, hoping that his attack was enough to down it. It didn't. Rip. Like a monster that got into rampage the moment it reached some kind of HP threshold, the moment the breasts lost their clothing, it became faster. Swish. Swish. It flew faster and faster. And when Naruto lost his sight of it, the pair of breasts came from behind him, swallowing his head with one easy gulp. Lime warning. Tags. Tit job, living sex toys, scent smother, breast smother. Gah! Naruto fell to his back the very moment a pair of breasts swallowed his head. Fortunately, he was quick enough to move so his face was now on top of its cleavage and not inside it. Unfortunately, however, the breast's clothing was quick to regenerate and trapped him, with his face as the only free thing in the middle of its heart-shaped opening. So heavy! Naruto tried his hardest to claw the breasts covering his neck and head, but the pair was so slippery that no matter how hard he tried, it won't budge. He didn't get more chances to try, however, because before he could, two pair of floating breasts were quick to capture his hands along with most part of his arms from their large size alone. And just like his head, his hands fell to the side the moment they got captured. The breasts became heavy once it captured a prey. Noted. I can't move. Naruto muttered to himself after the other two pair of breasts captured his legs before he could move them. Thus he lay there. On his legs, arms, and head, the breasts were moving so gently as if they wanted to lull him to sleep. Of course, Naruto merely tried to test the movement of his limbs for the answer and didn't like it when his claws cannot damage the breasts even from the inside of their cleavages. Their heavenly softness was enough to give him an erection, though. Answering his state, the last pair of breasts floated in his direction and captured his penis in one smooth movement. The breast size was enough to make his male member fully disappears. For the answer, Naruto let out a small gasp. The softness was enough to make him lose his mind. And yet, the avatar did not move with the usual roughness and merely swayed left and right, teasing his penis at the edge of ejaculation yet not letting it come. Mary, don't tease me, please. The breasts' avatars were Mary's, and inside of them was Mary's will, which makes them extensions of Mary herself. From her room, she was the one controlling these toys. And yet, the succubus did not heed his call, nor did she answer his plea. Again, Naruto struggled inside his soft prison, which met with nothing but futility. But just as he did, he realized a way to knock himself out. Panting ruggedly, the boy began to buckle his hips up and down, and immediately sensed his movement. A projection of Mary herself appeared on top of him, giving him a somewhat cute pout despite her terrifying sharp teeth. Her presence made Naruto stop his hips movement. So impatient. Husband. Why? Oh, why can't you give me just a little amusement, Despite her grin when she said those words, Naruto did not answer, simply because he knew the woman was honestly feeling annoyed. But still, I have to save everyone trapped in this plan. Mary answered his words by moving the large breasts capturing his penis up and down, so fast that the sound following suit did not sound lewd at all and actually like fists hitting a person again and again. Naruto came into the breasts as quickly as a ninja can shoot their kunai on his face. A rather lewd expression can be seen for a few seconds. Said expression made Mary's grin become even more sinister. Always so noble, my dear, cute husband. Here Mary's projection stood, and had she been a creature of flesh and blood and not a projection, Naruto would feel her weight because the one she stepped on was him. His face still bloomed with red because he could easily see how lewd and wet her womanhood was, though. Just a suggestion. Please stop being cute, my dear. Kaguya-sama forbid us rulers to break your mind if you appear on our dungeon. However, she never said we must give you challenge from weakest to strongest. Naruto shivered in fear when Mary leaned her face down and opened her mouth wide, and from it, a small yet very thick pink smoke came out. At the same time, pink gases also began to pour out from her real body like some kind of aura. Even though he was not able to smell those gases, Naruto knew deep in his heart the moment he took a small sniff, he'd lose. If you're being too cute, I might come and kidnap you. And just like that, Mary stood once again. The terrifying expression on her face disappeared as if it was never there in the first place as she said her words chirpily. Of course, for shit and giggle, Mary's projection moved her feet until it was stepping on his face. In embarrassment, Naruto's face became even more red. Train your endurance, hubby, and once you do, meet me. I'll step on your face like this. Somewhat childishly, Mary changed her position so she now was sitting on his face. Her butts were so big that he cannot see anything when she did. But from the movement he could see, Naruto knew Mary's projection was grinding her bottom against his face. Sit on you like this. Again, Mary changed her position and spread her breasts. Once she did, she captured his face inside the two and let out very thick pink gas from her mouth. Or I could give your face a puff-puff as I keep breathing my aphrodisiac on you like this. As if cannot handle her own imagination, Mary's face began to get red and her own breathing got ragged as she stood once again on top of his body. Her grin was anything but gentle. I'll patiently wait for you, my hubby. And just like that, Mary's projection disappeared, leaving Naruto all alone once again, panting and blushing because the succubus's ministration began to get into his head. He can't help but imagine all the dirty things Mary could do to him. Zip. Alas, Naruto didn't get any time because the heart-shaped opening of the breasts that captured his head got closed, creating an outline of his face on top of the cleavage. MNPPH. Forced to smell the scent of nylon and the diluted scent of Mary's body odor, Naruto let out a small, muffled moan. Of course, as his face got smothered, the breasts captured his penis began to move once again, so fast that it took Naruto less than 5 seconds to come on it. Again. And again. And again. Ignoring the fact Naruto's comebank was empty, the breasts kept raping him, uncaring of his weak plea for them to stop. It was not until 5 hours have passed since Naruto passed out that the avatars let him respawn back into the safe zone. Lime end. Later. Say Hinata, except for Kagaya to extract chakra and vitality from women, is there any other reason dungeons exist? Was the question Naruto threw to Hinata after he got respawned and rested for a few hours. As for why he asked this, well, he just can't help but repeat Mary's words in his mind, over and over again. Train your endurance. Hubby, once you do, meet me. Train his endurance. That's what Mary told him to do. And knowing the succubus was an extension of Kagaya, Naruto can't help but get curious about another reason for the existence of dungeons. Is dungeons some kind of training ground for him? Eh? I don't know, Naruto-kun. Kagaya-sama never talked to me about any other reason she built these dungeons except for extracting chakra and life force from kidnapped women. Not surprised that Hinata knew nothing, Naruto merely nodded. And once he did this, his attention went to his teammate with a pair of furrowed eyebrows. It was still humiliating that Hinata watched everything that happened to him, but he can only hope she saw some weakness in the new avatars. Hinata, did you see any weakness I can exploit for those floating blob of flesh? Yeah. That's what he's going to call those new avatars. After all, he is a male. For a male to say "apay" is just a big no in his vocabulary. Fufufu, unfortunately, I didn't see anything. I'm sorry, but I have to ask you to fight those avatars with your bare fists the next time you enter the test. Definitely amused because Naruto was too shy to say a rather vulgar word, Hinata let out a small, cute titter, followed by her answer to his question and her own input about what he should do next if he saw them again. Definitely not happy, Naruto pouted. Nonetheless, he still nodded. I don't like it, but okay. Trial and error. That's how he defeated the gloves avatars. He's not going to be surprised that he had to do the same with this new kind of avatar. Still, let's just hope it won't take a week of him getting defeated and raped again and again this time. Time skip. And that's that. Standing in the middle of an arena with several unmoving pairs of breasts around him, Naruto wiped a small sweat from his eyebrows. 2 weeks. That's how long he and Hinata took to realize that yes, the breasts can only be damaged by blunt force. But he cannot attack blindly if he wanted to stay safe. He had to attack their sides. Attacking the cleavage or their front would only make the breasts spread and capture his hands. And with their speed, it was so easy for them to change their facing direction. And for the whole 2 weeks, Naruto got captured, then milked by those 6 pairs of breasts. Fortunately, those days could end now. The lewdness is humiliating, but I'm getting stronger, Naruto muttered to himself. Mary told him to train his endurance by losing to her avatars. But with how thin the air in her dungeon is, each fight also made him stronger and faster. Of course, the constant sex also increased his stamina and endurance, but he won't say that out loud. By this point, he's already gotten used to the thin air and could move as easily as he was on the outside. Let's keep going. Nodding to himself, Naruto looked around to make sure that there was no longer an enemy around before he walked forward to the door that'll lead him to the next room. The avatars he met were very silent because of their floating state. He needed to keep a constant watch on his surrounding if he wanted to be safe. Not like losing will harm him, but it's almost a month. A month since he came to this dungeon to save his teammate, Hinata, and Ino. However, Hinata had told him that Ino was not present in this dungeon and she never saw a trace of her in the said dungeon. Thus, Naruto concluded that Ino has been kidnapped by another dungeon and not the one he was in. Anyway, just as he said before, it's almost been a month since he came, and despite the time outside was moving very slower compared to the place he's in, he has to get out fast. He has to save Ino. Thump. Opened and entered the next door. Naruto once again ignored the loud sound that came from the closing door behind him. And once he did and took a look around his surrounding, he nodded to himself. The place doesn't seem it'll hold an arena. The next room was somewhat wide and seemed to be pretty long. And of course, women lay at some points of the place, moaning and ejaculating onto the floor very lewdly. By now, such sights already a familiar sight for Naruto. Calmly, Naruto walked forward. Okay, why? With a very red face, Naruto muttered to himself as he stared at the area in front of him and the things that block it. Beside him, some kind of switch can be seen. As for what the switch was for, Naruto flicked it with his right hand. Burururu. Huge breasts were lining the walls, left and right respectively, and both have the same amount, which is 3 times 3. How huge! If he knelt down, each breast was as big as him. Time 2 actually considering their perkiness. That's how huge each of them was. They're just not as tall as him. And after he flicked on the switch, the huge breast trap spread, giving him an opening to walk. 1, 2, 3, 4. Boing! After 4 seconds passed, the spreading walls were quick to close again. And in the middle of them, the set of breasts met each other lewdly with a small slapping sound and boing that make Naruto can't help but watch. Once they did, they began to sway, as if to cradle anything that was caught inside. And Naruto can't help but imagine that he was the one who got caught. His face got redder the moment such a dirty image passed his head. Mary, you're a pervert. No, Kagaya's the pervert. But this dungeon is Mary's, so any traps and avatars inside were made by the succubus in question. Kagaya made Mary with her dream, but this dungeon's made by Mary. Thus, he called Mary a pervert after he saw the trap in front of him and not Kagaya. Sigh. With a small yet heavy sigh, Naruto shook his head. I have to keep going. For seconds opening just to pass 10 or so meters. That's easy. After all, which person in their right mind could get caught in such a trap anyway? Men? Yes, perhaps some men would be more than willing to get caught in such a lewd trap. But except for him, there were only women, right? Kunoichi too at that. Flick. And thus, Naruto flicked the switch once again and walked forward as the spring-like trap spread. Although, I got played. The very second Naruto was right in the middle of the trap, the end of the road was suddenly blocked by several breast avatars stacking on top of each other. Of course, the end behind him was also blocked by the same thing. Naruto's face turned red immediately as the mental count in his head reached 4. Stupid me. Snap. GUH. Like a fly caught by a fly trap, Naruto struggled as his whole body got caught between several pair of sweet-smelling huge breasts. However, his action merely made his already hard member slip into the slit between some breasts. He didn't know the slit was a cleavage or the narrow space between breasts, not when his face and the back of his head got smushed by other breasts. It was at this point that the trap began to move. Ua, SSTOMNPH. Despite knowing how futile it was, Naruto opened his mouth, trying to tell the trap to stop its movement. He got a large nipple to his mouth for his problem, stuffing his mouth and making it full with its size alone. Cannot talk and no struggling only make his body even more sensitive. Naruto chose to not do anything. A somewhat correct thing to do, if you saw it from a different angle, that is. With his face getting smushed by a breast, Naruto cannot see anything except a small glimpse of the nice color of flesh every time it moved. He chose not to do anything, merely let himself focus on the feeling of the pleasure his body receives. The breasts constantly get narrow and trapping his member between them before they moved left and right, up and down. The fleshes in his hands were pressing against them ever gently, as if asking him to keep touching and grabbing them. And of course, can't forget that the breast in front of him was constantly puffing a small amount of pink gas toward his face. MGH. Thus, with a small mule, Naruto came. He won't lie, but with the fear of deaths no longer dominating his mind, these kinds of activities, it's nice.